Whenever you're ready, Gordy.
All right. We have a couple of items on your consent agenda today. First is a request for concurrence to award one of the paving projects that we opened last week, and that's the one on West Darland. Item number 9 is a small works contract between Frank Gurney Construction and the county, and this is for the guardrail repair from this past winter and springtime. And
how many feet of guardrail repair is that?
I don't know about the total lineal feet, but it's mostly the ends that get hit.
Mm-hmm.
We can do a lot of the work ourselves on the straight rail, but the terminal ends that you have to hire somebody because you have to be certified to install them.
And do we ever pass that charge along to the people who hit it?
Yes, when we get an accident report, we ask for reimbursement from the insurance company. Yep.
Do we have the Zoom on person view, or is my just being weird?
It's on, yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
I can see
Is
it.
that wrong? Okay, good enough.
You look like $1 million. So.
I supposed to take sunglasses off my head, though, right? All right, sorry, sir, go ahead.
That's okay. Item number 10 is a supplemental agreement with Bear Testing. They do all of our materials testing, and so we need more money in that. They'll be billed against the paving project, the building project, and those, and so we're just kind of extending. We've and our design work as well, so we're asking to add more dollars to that.
When did that contract begin?
I think it was a year ago we redid it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we try and do them annual, but when they're working on projects that aren't complete yet, we like to keep the same person doing the testing. So we keep the consistency. Item number 11 is a standard supplemental agreement with Trejo, and they're the on-call architect that we use. And so not asking for more money, but just to continue with more time to complete some of the projects they've been working on. Item number 12 is a fairgrounds licensing agreement. This is the one for the Friends of the Fair that we talked about last week for the fee waiver for the barrel races. Item number 13 is a statutory warranty deed. And this is for Rattlesnake Road to dedicate right away. And we have a pay estimate approval to Kirby, and this is for a little over $1 million, $1,056,000, and this is for last month. Okay, on the construction side, annual striping contract. The contractor says they should be done this week with phase 1 striping, and that's all of our maintenance work, provided they continue to get shipments and delivery of paint, which is still a struggle. It was a struggle for them to get started, have enough paint to get started, and it's still an issue.
Okay. I did have a question on that. Just because I noticed, because I lived there, was the old highway loop. We historically have not painted fog lines there. We did this year.
Yes,
Was that just because of all the?
delineate the parking too. It
Oh,
helps
okay.
people, our thought is if
Oh,
there's
that
an
way they
edge-
have when we're talking about the fog line, there
Yes.
actually has to be a fog line.
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe that way when they park there, they go, okay, I shouldn't be parking over this line. It's our
Right.
hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I just knew it was different than what
Yes.
we've done. And I know, we don't give away, they don't give us free fog line. So
I wish they did.
Stripe it
yeah, we pay for every foot.
Yep.
again and again.
Uh-huh.
In this case, though, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Old Mountain Road contractor, they cleared last week. This week it's grubbing, and they're installing culverts and working with the utilities to relocate. So that's ongoing. So Lee probably drives through every day.
They're very nice.
Yes.
Progress. Okay, Roosevelt drainage repair. Contractor started this week, and they have 2 done so far, and a few more to go. So they're making progress, which is great. our grant funded, no real change on our grant funded edge line or signs and guideposts. They're still in the works. They haven't started yet, but they'll get there. On the design side, no change in Courtney Road. Just kind of on hold until the fall when we'll advertise. And our paving projects, like I said, we opened bids last week. We got really good numbers for bids, which is great. And Darlin's getting awarded, and then the Roosevelt Grade Road is still under review. So with WashDOT, so we'll get there, just not right away. Let's see, Bickleton, most of our guys are finishing up out there on chip sealing on Alderdale Road. And so they'll finish that this week, and we're gonna try and get our stripers. So once our striper gets done with phase 1 striping, they leave until we get done. Phase 2 is all of our chip seal work that we do. They'll come back and stripe that in the fall. But we're trying to get them to, if they get paint, to stripe Alderdale Road before they go, because it's a long road. It's an arterial, and we'd like to see striping on it through
And
the
if we're
summer.
done with it, then.
Yeah, we're done with it, yeah, this week. So once they finish up the chip sealing, they're gonna go back to patching and grading.
Patching and grading in the area or where?
Goldendale and Bickleton area, both crews will continue with their normal operations. And then the same, because the west end crews were helping, so they'll go back to do more patching and grading and brushing and those kinds of things. The new building, let's see, we got all of our operable windows in, and then we took a few out because we needed to load carpet on all the floors. So the only way really to do that is through the windows. So they took a couple out. They'll go back in eventually. All the doors arrived last week, and so there'll be the exterior doors on the first floor. They'll all start being installed, and the plywood will go away, which is good. The drywall people are still working inside all 3 floors. They have lids on the first floor yet to do. All the walls are painted for the most part on the first floor. It's pretty finished out. The tile guys came in and they were finishing up the grouting the bathrooms on the first floor yesterday when I was over there. And they'll be moving to the second floor to start doing tile work. Looks really nice. They're doing a great job. Let's see, so electrician, I think after watching this building go up, I think being an electrician would be a good job because they're there from just after they start and they'll be there till the end. There's a lot of equipment and wiring and to go in that building. It's
And they're
amazing.
not cheap.
No, yeah.
And it's usually inside.
Yeah,
It's
it's where it's dry,
clean,
yeah.
warm.
Clean.
It's not clean. It's a nice,
Nice trade,
it's a nice trade.
a lot of opportunity.
There is a lot of opportunity.
Mechanical work continues. The sprinkler guys are still buttoning it up, and the HVAC people are still working as well. So lots of trades inside. They're starting to do things outside. In the alleyway, you can't really see it from the front, but they're going to pour, I think today, about 40 yards of concrete for the foundations for the 2 generators and the chiller that sit back there. So yeah, it's a lot. I was like, wow, that's
quite a foundation.
It is quite a foundation. But, that's going on this week, and then they're starting to excavate the road. We found a few soft spots that'll have to be over-X'd, and we'll put fabric back in and so that there's structural support. But they were soft. You could see them when I'd walk over them, the ground would move. So yeah, it has to be fixed.
Although I did note, there was some decent looking dirt out there.
Yeah.
It's like Goldendale's got some.
Yeah.
It's not
nice
solid
dirt.
rock.
Yeah, it's not a bunch of rock.
Yeah. Let's see. So everything else, furniture, all of our outside work that we've talked about, some of it's on hold, the parking lots, working with the city, trying to talk to them now about the Grant Street vacation, the section behind the jail that we'll be requesting that. so we can build our large parking lot in that whole area, including the road, what's now road right away. Courthouse entry project, I don't know if you wanted to talk about
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna start hopefully pour next, the end of this week. We're putting in all the electrical mats now at the east entrance. And by the end of June, we're hoping to have the east entrance completely poured back in place. And then we'll start working on the north entrance. And as you can see, we've cut down the wall. We're not gonna, we needed to do that so we get through to the whole base of where the old existing rail was, because we're gonna put the matching rail as part of the the agreement with the grant. But we're gonna pour back, we're not gonna pour the whole wall back. It doesn't make any sense. You don't need the whole wall there. But we'll pour a cap so it matches the front entrance.
Yeah, I got to look in the zombie
Got to
apocalypse
see.
vault. Oh, that's, yeah, no, looks good.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, especially when we peeled the top off and had that open cap.
Yeah. Interesting that it's interesting to me that we have all of this vault, space that's outside the building.
Yes.
That was just a way to, I think that was a thing, it's like, we don't have any of that on our new building.
No.
Everything is confined to the footprint of the building, and that seemed to have been a common practice back in the day, when this was built, is that it was a way to get extra space, but it's outside.
Yeah.
And as we know, we've historically had problems with leaks and water intrusion, and there's a reason you try to stay inside the building envelope and not try to borrow space from the parking lot and steps. The bunker, we'll put the bunker in the basement, not outside.
Right.
And it just causes problems. But I know from my previous career in the Dalles, there's lots of old buildings, same thing. Where
So they built out over.
like there's
the
all
porches.
this stuff, out overneath,
Uh-huh.
or under the sidewalks, where we would, sometimes even the building owners didn't know. When we were digging through, we would find all kinds of spaces. And if you're ever wandering around in the Dalles, there's, especially in the old part of town, there's lots of, you'll notice these like window, they're crystal. They're
Oh, yeah, those little squares.
those
Yeah.
little squares.
Yeah,
There's space that was to get daylight into some of the walls, and so that's always a telltale sign. Because I always thought, wonder what those are for? Because they're these little grids of.
The
That's what they
skylight.
are. There's skylights,
Yeah.
and there's all kinds of, and that's, and I guess a lot of that though, the old part, the main floor is not the town got built up because of flooding. That's a lot of that's really the second story. So it's like Seattle where there's
Right, another town.
that there's another town underneath.
Yeah.
So I've been through some of that, but that was much more prevalent to build these things outside under the ground, which.
While you're on courthouse entry stuff, sorry to.
No, sorry.
I
It
tried
was a
to.
great trip, man, down memory.
Yeah, it
lane.
was.
Yeah.
Back before they had dirt in the house.
Yeah.
Courthouse entry, can you remind me of the cost of this? It was like 450,000 or something. Does that sound right?
Yes,
I know half of it is a grant.
206. I'll bring you the
I
numbers,
just,
Dan.
as long as that sounds like a
That's
rough
that's
estimate.
fairly
I'm fine
close.
with that.
I'm gonna say that's really close.
I was asked the question and that's what I answered and I said, I think. So as long as
It's about a
in the ballpark.
50-50 split.
Right, that's what I thought.
Pretty typical.
Yeah, it's typical of what they do.
Okay, let's see, fairgrounds, we covered the PA system last week. Painting at the Pioneer Center on the west facing walls outside. Radio sites.
We finished Klickitat. It is now up and running. Transfer was over to the new facility, so that's done. And I'm just, the Klickitat is on. We're done with that for the time being. And I'm waiting to hear back. I made the offer after we talked. And it'll probably be a few weeks before they get it through all the shareholders and everything to find out if they accepted our offer for Sadis.
All right, other follow-up issues. We had a request, this is in Dave's area on Wacacus Heights Road, for a no compression brake operations coming down the hill, which right now, I think it's kind of a seasonal thing. I know the house where the complaints coming from was up for sale not too long ago. And so I think it's a new owner, and they don't log and haul out of that road all the time. And so, but truckers need to be able to use their brakes, everything, because it's windy and it's steep.
That's
Yes.
long.
And I don't have good solutions other than it's a short duration issue and it'll stop.
This is one property.
One property, yeah. So we'll work with them, but I don't have any solutions other than it'll end.
Yeah.
All the old signs that still hang up say no unmuffled compression brakes.
Yes.
So all Jake brakes now have muffles. They're all muffled. You know when there's one that comes down that's unmuffled.
Yeah.
That's a
Yes.
whole nother sign. Can you actually tell them that they can't use any compression brakes?
No, use of compression brakes. So it's unmuffled is already illegal.
Right.
So in some areas though, you don't want them to use them, like you come in off of South Columbus and toward town, and there's a sign that says no use of compression brakes in the city. So it's none.
The sign on the west side still says unmuffled. It doesn't say, it says no use of unmuffled going down Pigeon Hill. And it was like, yeah, I can see that, but muffled, I understand, like, we don't want the superette getting smashed again and again and again.
No. Yeah. So unmuffled are already illegal everywhere. It's just the use of them. In some areas you don't want it.
Right.
And it might not be necessary, like when you're going 25 in town, probably not going to make much difference. But coming down some of those grades, on the west side especially, you need them.
Yeah, you're not getting down that hill without it.
No.
So for one property owner, you can't stop.
You can
No.
go.
And it's kind of like moving next to cows and then complaining about cows. So
Yes.
sorry, I would just educate them and
Yeah, it'll go away.
And it's short
stop.
duration.
Yeah, it's very short. Yes.
So by working with them, you're saying you're waiting them out?
Well, just letting them know that it's not a forever thing, and that
Right.
Yeah.
the logging companies will log, but this is not always the haul route they'll use.
Yes.
So
And it's a safety
welcome to the
concern.
country. We appreciate your business.
Would you do one other favor? Give them a copy of the Tips for Country Living.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking. We need to add a line on that about long trucks, I think.
But on your question, we do leave the signs up that say no unmuffled, just because we have a few people from the other side of the river that come over.
yeah,
And
Oh, and they
It's
don't
not
have.
illegal.
it's not illegal, so they come, we hear about it immediately, so this helps remind them that they need to
I
be
didn't
muffled.
realize they weren't illegal over there.
I don't think they are, because we have a couple that come over here.
yeah, we went through this in the Trout Lake.
Yes,
Trout Lake a few
yes,
years
we
ago.
lived
Yes.
this,
When they were hauling down the
Yeah. Trout
yes,
Lake Highway.
Trout Lake Highway,
ended up,
Sunnyside Road.
yeah, ended up being a couple people from Oregon that didn't have
That were the
muffled brakes.
troublemakers.
Yeah,
At least you know they're coming.
Well, yeah,
It's not like a train where you're gonna get hit.
no.
All right, next issue on the list is the request by the Glenwood Fire Department to use the park property. So Mochi's looking into it more, but the property was dedicated with the plat to the county for park and recreational purposes forever. So, but I don't know, she'll give us more information on what may or may not be possible there.
I guess I don't understand even what you're talking about there, so you might have to tell me.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, we had received an email request that the Glenwood Fire Department needs additional space, dirt.
Is this next to their fire hall or?
No, so this,
Separate location.
it would be in a separate location. So they were asking about the possibility of a grant from the county for some of the county's owned property there, but he said it was dedicated for park and recreation. So it seems like it would be difficult, but I don't know if this would be more of a question to the prosecutor as far as if you're leasing it so it's not a permanent use. Can you get
So-
around that?
Right.
This was a gift to the county from an individual.
No, it's when it was platted, the
Yeah.
original town was platted. That's pretty typical, is that you set certain,
Okay, so
green
this wasn't a
space.
gift from somebody that says, make this a park, okay?
Yeah, not like Gooler Park, Trout Lake Park.
Right.
Yeah,
This was,
it's part of the plat.
Just part of the
Yeah.
plat, so.
So
similar to
we'll
the
find
Dallas
out.
sports.
Yeah,
Really similar to Dalsport, some of
Yeah.
that stuff out there, so.
this park is pretty unmaintained. I mean, There's
Yes.
a picnic table there and it's
That's about it.
woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much there. So,
You don't see a lot of community pushback.
I don't know.
Yes, but I don't, I mean, they have that kind of that park there in town. I don't know that, I don't even know. who
That's
gets it.
private,
Yeah.
that's, piles.
Right, it's private. I know that the community kind of uses it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
As opposed to the other
Piles,
park.
that's really the one the community uses, is Hoot and Piles, but
Yeah.
there's their own park they
They
built. They
It's
they also
nice.
have events there, it's a very nice
Yeah,
park.
very nice. It is very nice.
I'm wondering how much space do we have at the shop in Glenwood?
Not much.
Not much, so we don't have any extra space out there, okay. I
No.
was wondering, I know we just built the new,
What are they
Stuff
trying to
out.
do?
Yeah.
Build another hall or something?
I think so.
Yeah, storage for equipment, to keep some of their equipment. And the community's usually behind those kind of
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But I think we just have to work through the land use and issues and see what's possible. So,
Okay, we'll start from there. As far as
Yeah.
the first is just to know what's even possible.
okay, we had a request from the Klickitat County Cattlewomen's Association to use the fairground parking lot to distribute food to the community, and they're asking for a waiver, so there isn't gonna be enough time to process it like the last one that came through for the barrel racing events. So they're not making money, they're just giving food away. And they were gonna do it on the school parking lot, but the school's paving the parking lot, so they needed another
I was
location.
gonna say, I was wondering
Short
why
notice,
fair
yeah.
this year, it's usually at the school.
Yeah,
I'm a yes.
Yes.
okay. You'll see it next Tuesday then.
Yeah.
With some-
I'm surprised we charge $50 to use our parking
Yeah,
lot.
we don't really do anything, but you know,
Right now, that's like 2 steaks.
Potentially one.
Potentially one.
Tomahawk.
Yes.
And the last one, maybe more for you, I just want to make sure we're kind of to that point where we're order or not order more furniture. So those conference tables, we talked about getting some material, or you talked about maybe having some milled up and
I'm still
Right.
trying to get a hold of Blair.
Okay.
I've left him multiple messages. I have finally have somebody else going around that I hung out with this weekend that's gonna have him call me,
okay,
so we can go from there. But
okay. Yeah, we probably have another week or two, and then we'll either have to order or just say we're gonna delay, and then we'll adjust when the time comes.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
We'll sit on the floor, it'll be fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, we have plastic folding tables, they'll work
yeah, that's true.
short term.
We have all the conference tables from all the other buildings that
Yeah, we'll, there's
Go
nothing-
sort through.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
So
Take this one with us.
There, yeah.
that's the end of our list.
I actually do.
Okay, go ahead.
Was out at All Creek, the rodeo in Bickleton, and had a couple of complaints about Bickleton Highway from Rock Creek to Bickleton, potholes, things like that. I drove it. I didn't notice anything, but just relaying that on.
Sure.
What is our county's current policy? Is there any change to Dallas Mountain Road? Are we fixing Dallas Mountain Road? Are we maintaining Dallas Mountain Road? Or are we letting it go to I don't know. I've had 2 different complaints from law enforcement on the roughness And the damaging of vehicles on Dallas Mountain Road.
Yeah, so
Apparently they hit rocks that literally hit the axle or the lower shock mount on the axle.
Well, if it's that big, they should have got out and moved it.
it's rough coming up the hill from
I haven't driven it.
Park
Yeah.
on the riverside. That
Yeah, up
section
near the
is,
top.
it's-
That's always been
you're-
bad, right?
yeah,
there.
it's,
There's
you're
some-
hitting rock tops.
Yeah.
And
We've never gravelled that, right?
no, it's pretty much shale and dirt on that section. We've fixed
in the top.
on this
of the-
side,
It's more like
all the way up to the
cobbles.
top, but we have
Cobblestone
not,
at the top.
We're not put any extra rock.
yeah.
So the county has never maintained that with any kind of a grader to smash those rocks off or
We grade
or to smash it off or something.
Yeah, you'd have to build it up or hammer down to remove what the peaks of the rocks. It's the basalt from below. It's big. It's not a small rock to remove. It's a big
So
job
this
to
is
do
the
that.
dirt wearing out around the cobblestone.
Yes,
Right,
yeah. Yeah, and that's that riverside up near the top is where it gets worse.
It's like a
And-
mile of it, right?
Yeah, maybe 2 miles probably.
It's bad.
Yeah, but there's
Especially
1
there's
mile
that
that's
one
really
where
bad.
that spring kind of.
Yeah,
That's really, that's the
really.
worst. That's where the real bad
So
spot.
the only two options are paying a fortune to actually build a road in there, or jackhammering the top of the rocks off kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a project. It's not a small issue to
No.
fix that segment. And, it's been talked about, is that something that we want to do? Because I know there's strong feelings on both,
Yes.
from
both
both,
sides.
fix it or, upgrade it or not upgrade it, it's another route between.
Right, I guess I would say I'm not looking to pave it or make it a fancy gravel road. I would just like it usable. Even rugged usable by first responders, law enforcement, fire. I don't want to have to get up there and fight a fire this year and knock off an axle off the back of my truck.
I'll trade you that road for Stotts any day.
Mm. Yeah,
I
it's
drove
in
down
far better
Stotts
shape.
last
Yeah.
night.
I've driven that one.
Go drive Stotts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not been up there, this spring, since this spring over the winter. Generally it's as far as it's very passable. It's in
Yeah.
decent shape. It gets super washboardy and there's
Mhm.
but it's like a typical, gravel road on a hill, on a slope in the dry time of the year. It's just really hard to not have it be a bunch of washboards. I don't know, as I said, I haven't been up there to know if the
That's just- I
rock
haven't
peaks,
looked at
maybe
it in
it's
a year or two.
maybe it's
Yeah.
particularly bad this year. I don't know, because it's hard. You can't really grade that because there's nothing to grade.
Yeah.
Because you're right on the top of the basalts and stuff there. So
Yeah, I drove up, it's been a couple months now and came over and didn't look any different than it usually does up near the top.
I'm gonna go take a drive.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've typically gone. I mean, in a car.
Yeah.
As far as and been fine. You had to use your head as far as through the
Yeah,
one area through there, but you could do it.
it's not fast. That's.
No, no.
Want to make it.
No, and these complaints were not, like I said, these were law enforcement complaints, and they were not, we want a freeway through there.
Yeah.
It was, coming through there in the dark because they need to come through there and they're hitting crap they probably shouldn't be hitting. Those were the concerns.
Okay.
So like I said, I'll go take another peek at it and we can revisit the question.
Yeah,
Sure, us too.
We can take a look at it.
We'll look at it.
We did do a little fill in your favorite spot around the curve there where it gets really
It
mucky.
gets mucky.
We filled that a few years ago because that
There were
was bad.
ruts.
Yeah, you could get stuck
You could
there.
get stuck there.
Bit of a hike out of there too.
Yeah. Did you have anything? I did have, I was gonna bring it up anyway, but I did get a call from some folks. This isn't our issue, but and I'm really looking for guidance on how we can make it our issue or push the issue. It's the intersection of Highway 14 and the old Highway 8 at Roland Lake, where we are just having multiple
Yeah,
accident after accident, and there is so much more traffic, people trying to make a left-hand turn off 14 to go onto our road, and there's no turn lane, and people are just coming and smashing into the back of people. And this has been an issue for a while, and I don't know how to raise this with WashDOT in a way to get their attention, because we had raised this probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they're like, well, the accident, it doesn't really warrant. And it's like, well, it seems like now we've had 3 or 4 just in, it's at least, it's like 1 a month now where we have, I don't believe we've had a fatality yet. I don't want us to get to a fatality before, and I don't know if that's, RTC, if I can bring it up at the next board meeting, because I know WashDOT's processes are slow and cumbersome to get on the planning, but this needs to get, because I would think just what they're spending to replace the guardrails every month would pay for a turn lane.
Yeah, so they took another one out of there the other day.
Yeah, that was Thursday or Friday, both sides.
Yeah, both sides.
And that's what it was. Somebody was stopped to turn left, and the truck
wasn't
a yellow jacket this time. We can't fix that. A turn lane wouldn't have fixed that, and that was up the street a little ways.
There's a multi-agency grant that Forest Service, WashDOT has. They're the 2 lead agencies to look at all those sites.
Yeah.
And, they've been really concentrated on Dog Mountain.
Right.
When they get back together, though, we talked about it the last time. David Evans is now leading that group, but that has, our sheriff's department, state patrol, all those agencies are there. So we can push that.
Yeah.
And, and next time they get a meeting together, I can give you a heads up.
Okay, I would appreciate that, because I know we do, because it's not just the forest, it's not just the trailhead folks. I think there's just more traffic with the wineries all on Old Highway. That is, I know from, pickup day, I know what day is there for everybody's wine clubs, because it is just in and out, wall to wall traffic. Folks coming and doing, which is good. Those are county businesses. We support that industry. We like to see that, but we also need the infrastructure, the facilities. And this is not ours. Our roads are fine.
Right.
It's the state. It's WashDOT, and they just have to acknowledge. There's just a lot more traffic than there has historically been. And I don't think that's going to change. I think that's the new normal, and they got a plan for it. And yes, they have been super focused on Dog Mountain, and I think they've got that kind of figured out. And it's like, well, there are other places on 14 besides Dog Mountain, and the other is Beacon Rock.
Yeah.
It's another big, with the new roundabout that's going to go there, which I'm interested how that's going to work. But I was a skeptic of the Carson one, and it
seems to work.
It seems to work. I've driven through it several times and not
I've
died.
seen some pretty sketchy things happening on that one.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is talk about Courtney, and there is talk about Catherine, correct?
Okay.
And we did, and I brought it up when I said my spiel that, look, we're building that, so we're gonna add more traffic.
Right.
There's already a bunch of traffic, and they know that.
Right.
So I think that might be, because they got 2 federal grants to do this stuff.
Okay.
So they got the Forest, the 2-4, they ended up with 2 grants. They're both the same. They're that Forest Service access grant. I can't remember the acronym off the top of my head now for it, but,
Okay.
but they've gotten 2 of the grants for that. And they tied a lot of that to safety.
Okay. Well, this is
So this is
certainly
the
should.
perfect
Yeah, this
time
might be a
to,
safety thing.
Yeah, I think it's a
yeah,
safety
this is
thing
definitely,
where
this is the
having,
perfect venue.
Once a month, a truck is
Yeah.
trying to go in the lake,
Or kill somebody.
or kill somebody, or somebody in a car that's
I was gonna say,
waiting.
the car's gonna be the bad guy.
Yeah, it's gonna be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Fish and cheese.
Yeah, that was cheese. The fish like the cheese. So.
So I'll make some contacts and see what the
Yeah, and
next
see when the
meeting
next one
is,
is,
and
let
let
me
them know
know.
that, we definitely want to have a bigger say in what's going on.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay,
All right.
thank
Thank
you.
you, gentlemen.
Hi, Brenda.
The next day or so, with your box at the center.
Okay,
I think we may have to, but I'll talk to you.
Okay.
I think we may have to.
Well, it doesn't have to go
But
there.
that's okay. No, we can work something out with range too.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Auditor.
I guess it's a morning.
Well, that'll,
And it's
like-
Monday.
Like
Yeah,
Eeyore.
yeah.
You are settled out there. It's a, I was gonna say it's a beautiful day, but it really isn't.
Kind of.
Kinda.
As long as you wake up in the morning.
That's right. What's that? A better above the green than below it.
Maybe I give your copy away to, Rob.
Yeah.
I will give you mine when I'm done.
Man, that Saturday night, I don't know if anybody else, how
Something
far,
run it.
what,
Did you get hail?
oh my God, what a goalie watcher.
Oh, yeah, the goalie washer, but did you get the hail?
No, we didn't get hail.
It hailed up, snow, covered the ground.
Oh, I do have an extra, my gosh.
Did it get this far? Or
Just rain. not
Just the
hail.
rain, not
We were
hail.
watching the lightning strike.
Yeah.
The only fire was at the old plant.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So we'll cover elections first. We're already into the primary. Uocava ballots are going out here soon, this Friday. Everybody else's will go out the 14th of July. We have a local voter pamphlet that has been prepared. It'll be mailed with each ballot per the new law that, yeah. So we'll see how this goes. And primary is almost countywide. We have most of the county except Trout Lake and a portion of the east side of the county that are not included. So we have Hospital 1 with a bond proposition. And then anytime there's more than 2 candidates for a position, they go to the primary. Otherwise, they go straight to the general. So we have 3 of those school districts, Lyle, White Salmon, and Prosser, because a portion of Prosser comes into our county.
So clarification, one of the city council seats in Goldendale has 2 people, but they won't be on the primary, they're gonna be on the general.
True. Yep, if they had a 3rd one filed, then
Then it would be correct.
yeah, so. No, I don't have anything else into there. I don't know why I moved that. So last week and this week, we're attending the elections conference virtually. There's 3 days out of each week that they have an agenda for us. Normally it's a 4 to 5 day conference where we get the majority of our hours needed for our election certification, which is required by state.
Is that working okay as far as the virtual for the training? It's, I mean, it's better than nothing.
You know, yeah, I don't particularly care for it because in my particular position, now staff is fine with it, but I jump up and I deal with this or deal with that, and then I come back and I miss stuff, you know. Yeah, they're recording it, but am I gonna sit down and listen to the whole thing to pick up the 10 minutes I missed halfway through? Probably not. You know, if I was there in person, they would have my undivided attention.
Right.
So, yeah, there's mixed reviews on that.
You're trying to watch it live rather than just let them record it and then go back and then watch it as you go?
Well, it's interactive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, you know, if you have questions, yeah. So it's hard to be interactive if it's already recorded and over.
Sorry, if you were doing it in person, you'd still be getting phone calls to fix it too.
Probably not. You know, Heather's on vacation right now. She'll be back Monday. So, you know, she would have the same issue if she were here, you know, and I know she's listening. So, but,
And she's on vacation and listening.
well, she's doing a combination. So
It's not really
You got no excuse.
it's not a
No.
whole vacation, no.
That's not a vacation.
It is not. It is partial work and partial vacation,
No.
so.
That is,
But this is something that's required for our certification. So she's making sure that even though she took this time, she's getting her continuing ed in.
Okay.
This is not, well, I mean, seriously, we have to have it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Is
not.
it every year or is it?
We have an elections conference every year. Last year it was virtual and that was kind of something it wasn't as good as this one this year, but yeah. So, you know, any other questions on that or the election?
So all election staff have to be involved?
But yeah, you're supposed to be certified. Well, the full-time staff that are certified, we're all administrators. So, you know, it doesn't hurt anybody else to take it, but I'm not, yeah. Anyway, we have 4 casuals and I don't know what their schedules are. So, finance, the annual report was filed timely. State auditors, as I sent an email out to you, they'll be here the week of the 5th, which that's a holiday, so the 6th, and their goal is to be done, mostly done, not totally done, by Fair Week. They said it'll be mostly remote. So I said, we're happy to have you. Just let me know if you're coming so we have a space for you. So I don't know what mostly means.
We mostly have a building for you. to
Yeah,
stay.
we had mostly done.
So anyway, that's where we're at. They sent us a list that I've got to get out so we can start working on things that they need. They sent that earlier this week. So, you know, it's just going to be a busy time. And so far as license, do you have questions on finance? Anything before I go on? Okay. So licensing, as I mentioned last time, state was having trouble with their inventory supplies because Walla Walla and their supply area, all of that. That's better, but it's not at 100%.
Right.
So just saying, I won't have to probably scurry down to Skamania County or rendezvous with them with license plates. Or, you know, they managed somehow to get that resolved when they found out that was going to happen. They somehow plates just magically appeared for him, which is great. We've just been busy, steady, and you know, at least we don't have people standing out in the hallways like the second week after we opened. So nothing really new in recording other than it's just busy, more recordings ever. Last time I looked, which was 3 weeks ago, we were double of where we were last year.
How much of that's going through the e-recording?
I don't know right off. I could.
Is it a pretty significant chunk, do you think?
Depends on, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Greg started e-read, so that's going to skew the numbers because until he went live with e-read, we it was a minimal amount that was, you know, coming through. So now that like AmeriTitle and those guys, they don't have to send their stuff or bring their documents to us. So I think AmeriTitle White Salmon is using e-recording, and I'm looking at getting a couple more vendors, so we'll see. Greg has made it clear he's not going to add any more e-reads vendors on his side. That's his choice.
He's right there. So.
Yeah. Well, you did. You said you weren't adding any more.
No, that was good.
We won't, and the two main title companies will use, AmeriTitle and KCTC are both set up to use Simple File. The way that we set it up to work, actually the way Danny set it up to work before I got here was, if you use Simple File, it's like a one-to-one vendor. So if we signed up more systems, we have to have more systems to manage all day long of documents coming and going. There's other software out there where you have a tool and those link into the back of it. So you have one box that manages all the other software. So, but we get some. I could come up with what comes through CSC or other, but the main ones, AmeriTitle and KCTC, are on Simple File, and that's the bulk of the electronic transactions. So
You don't have CSC on there.
we process them manually.
Okay.
I mean, you know,
They come in, but
they come in, but we don't have their system, their e-read. Wouldn't be
Okay,
electronic.
all right. Right now we have Simple File and CSC, and I've had 3 other vendors approach me. So, yeah, it's not a big deal, really, to get it, and, you know, whatever. It's a convenience for our customers.
When did
What about for us though? Does it speed up the ability for recording for our recording staff where we're running double the amount we were last year? How can we keep up with that?
Electronic is basically the same. You go through, you look, you count the pages, you make sure the margins match, you make sure everything, you know, so it's electronic, you just don't have a piece of paper. So it might be a little quicker, but
Well,
I don't know.
because usually when you're doing it electronically, you don't have someone sitting there talking to you too the whole time.
Well, we usually don't anyway, because all of that paperwork goes down for deeds and that kind of thing goes to the treasurer's office. And then they
They
bring
do all
it
their
to us.
talking there.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then somebody from the treasurer's office brings it down, or it comes in the mail. Very rarely do
Oh,
we get
that's true.
very rarely do
I
we have a
guess so,
customer
yeah.
come in.
Because you're the last, that's the last
Yeah, very seldom do we have a customer
step.
come in and just sit down. And if we do, it's from an attorney's office and they're there for business, get her done. I want out of here. Sometimes you have the public come in for other things, but yeah. So it might be a little bit quicker and directly answer you, but you still have to go through the same, check everything. You know, the rejection is quicker. So if it doesn't match, instead of having to send it out in the mail and send a rejection back to whoever, if there's a problem, you send it electronically with a reason. They can rectify it and get it back to you quicker.
That's for something.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a convenience for our vendors or our customers, not our vendors, our customers.
I did have one person contact me or call me about the recording fees going up.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, July 25th, they're going up house, and I have my notes and I had it on my notes and I
Did
do.
you forward them to the legislative authority of the
I've
state?
heard it from two people so far. that-
Yeah, they're going up $100 for the first page. So it's going to be $200 and some to record the first page, which is ridiculous. The legislature keeps adding fees to the recording fee schedule as if it's a Christmas tree, and it just irritates me. And so July 25th, thank you for bringing that up.
What is it now?
You jumped me on that
It's
one.
107, I think, or
For the
100.
first page, and it's going
Yeah,
to 200.
I
Yeah,
can't
this is to
remember.
help homelessness and that kind of stuff.
Well, and then they added an extra kick to it. I can email you the article that I have on it. And it basically, we set that fee and the distribution for July 25th. And then next year it changes. The distribution amount changes. And then I think there's another timeline when that distribution changes again. So the bottom line, the dollar amount's not changing, but
It's going.
yeah, and so we have to make sure we're on our game and we get it changed or there's a problem.
July 25th, okay.
Yeah,
Get your stuff.
I have something.
I think it's House Bill
It's sitting on it.
1277. I
I'll
think
get
it's
it.
I think it's HB 1277.
The thing that's really bad is I've been sitting on it so long. The reason I should have done it before
What's
the
that?
previous. I have something I need to have recorded. I was like, darn it.
Before
I
the
missed,
first update
yeah, the
to
first,
100.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, now they raise it. What do I care? I'll do it when I get
Well,
around to it. Well, now I've got another incentive, another $100 incentive. So
When I started working with recording, it was $8 for the first page.
Yeah.
And 50 cents for the additional. And I don't even want to go there. Don't ask me when that was.
So that was my argument, because they were chewing us out, but why did we authorize this? And I'm like,
yes, I.
No, it's a legislative, it's
That's
always
not me.
legislative action. They'll, yeah, so.
We have no control over the
Right.
fees. That's-
Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to add that in there. It's one of my favorite things I'm looking forward to, so it's on it, but it's,
But it made me do a little emergency homework, so that was fine.
yeah. So veterans, Bill is gonna be taking a vacation in July, 2 weeks, but basically it's 6 days of his work, or no, it's 8 days, I guess. Yeah, 4 and 4 is 8. So I'll put that on our website. But right now he's continuing to work with veterans, some in person, some remotely, and we've adjusted his schedule a little bit due to personal medical appointments and things like that. So like yesterday he was in White Salmon. Normally he's off Monday, but he's off today, and then he'll work Wednesday and Thursday here and Friday in White Salmon. So, he tries to communicate with his veterans that he works with. So anyway.
You remember when he first started, right? He just knocked it out of the park and brought in a whole lot of money for
He
it.
still is.
Is he still hitting it just like that out of the park on the regular? I just never heard an update or anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same. It's what it comes down to is the veterans themselves don't know. A lot of them don't know what they are entitled to and or don't know what papers to fill out. So by having a little conversation, all of a sudden, oh, you're entitled to this and here's the papers to fill out. And
Right.
So it's a big deal.
And then that part of it, where if part of it falls on the veteran, has been a little bit of an issue, because when he first started, he did it all himself for them. And then he started trying to wean off of that, and new veterans had come in, and he'd say, here's your paperwork, fill it out, get it back to me. Well, you didn't do it for so-and-so. Well, my workload is such that I was doing a courtesy and I can't do that anymore. This is your responsibility. If you have questions on any of the items on these forms, let me know. You know, and so some of them, I said, well, Bill, I said, no good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, I said, so, you know, you were being nice and now it's coming back. But yeah, he's still, and he's still referring, he has begun, as I talked to Dave about it, maybe, I don't know if you shared it with him or not, but his workload has become such, if it's people out of the area, he'll say, you know, you have a veteran service officer, it's much closer. When they start calling from the East Coast and, you know, Canada, and it's word of mouth from relatives, you know, God, this guy did me a wonderful job and you're not getting anywhere with your veteran service officer. Hey, try this guy, you know. And when the previous board, which includes Dave, said, don't ever turn anybody away, it wasn't my initial thought that they meant from anywhere.
From anywhere on the planet.
Yeah, even Skamania County, he's told them, you know, you have a Vancouver Veterans Office you can go to, and your commissioners have chosen not to, you know, go forward with this. So, you know, it's not, I'm doing what I can do.
I hate to see that, but I would think I'm in favor, if he's that busy, I'm in favor of our residents being first.
Yeah, and that's what he's trying to do. Ones that are established, he's continuing to serve. So, because he has all their records in that. So, he has told me, he says, I'm buried. He says, for the first time ever, he says, I'm almost, you know, feeling overwhelmed to come to work. I said, Bill, no, we've got to work through this. Let's sit down and talk about what's going on. So this is what's come from this. And this 2-week vacation he's got coming up in July, he needs it. So.
We'll chip in and buy him a fruity drink to sit on the beach somewhere.
Yeah. So I have one last thing, if there's not any other questions. Well, I'd like verbal approval to go to HR and post my accounts payable job. Yeah, don't look at me like that.
I'm looking at you like that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have it.
Well, I would think that the board would think I'd have to have it.
I don't know.
Well, come on up.
See
and
that? Well, I guess if we can only get these every other week is fine.
Maybe once a month.
Once a month.
That'll help cash flow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, come spend a day in that desk and you'll change your mind.
You don't want me to.
Oh,
yeah, we'll try to train you. Just like we would a new employee.
Lateral transfer, I can move over there.
Yeah.
Sure.
It could be, it's a career opportunity.
Well,
Lots of room for growth.
yeah, and
You're kind
you
of
know,
topped out where
elected's
you're
on.
at now.
Well, the thing of it is, with an elected, you're serving 24 hours a day. So any of your commissioner work you could do outside of business hours.
Well, it's only one day a week now, so.
She's picking on me before I even gave her approval. You'd think she'd wait for approval before she picks on
It
me.
takes 2 votes. No. I'm sorry, Dan, I'm kidding.
I found that out here. I
Yeah.
found that out.
I'm just kidding. How could I pass that up?
I'm easy. I'm just the token whipping boy over here. I'm fine. No, I'm good with it. You're coming approved.
Okay,
I assume you're okay.
all 3 of you, thank you very much. It was not my best way to start my day, but that's how that is. So, you know, it's life.
Sure it is. You just laugh. It's always good to laugh.
Yeah.
Laughing is
If-
good for you.
Yeah, sometimes laughter is the only option.
Did you get 2 weeks at least?
Okay, well, that's.
26th. Okay, thank you very much. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Enjoy your day.
Yeah, I'm planning to. Okay, see you.
See you.
See ya.
Mr. Treasurer, had anything you wanted to add
No,
before
I was
this
just-
afternoon?
No, I just wrote down the food. Thank you.
Okay, see you later.
Well, that's new. They're starting to stock in person rather than just on the
Yeah.
on the Zoom. The world is returning. to
It is
normal.
returning to normal, so that's good. Anything anybody wants to bring up before we break for lunch? No? All right, well, we will recess for lunch. We will be back at 1 o'clock. I was gonna, if you boys are okay with it, I was gonna extend it.
We did.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all three commissioners are present. We will start first with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, we approve the business agenda with one add-on under new business, a resolution in the matter of adopting the Klickitat County Civil Service Rules and as amended.
I will make second the motion.
I have a motion, a second on the business agenda with the one add-on. Any discussion on that?
Go ahead.
Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Are you guys okay with the minutes?
I am now, yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we,
It was.
Oh, okay.
so now we are.
Now we are.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the commissioner meeting minutes for May 25th, 2021 as presented.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the commissioner meeting minutes. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. That brings us to citizen comment period. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners on any topic that's not on the agenda later. Please hold your comments to 7 minutes or less. Expediency is sometimes a good thing. If you wish to address the board, please unmute yourself, raise your hand, get our attention, and I will recognize you and we'll go from there. I see Bonnie and Dennis White. Looks like you are unmuted. Did you wish to comment to the board?
I don't see it.
No. Okay.
This open one in my screen doesn't even say a name.
Oh,
What?
Emails. Oh, it's gone now.
it's gone now. Oh, yeah. What is that? It's
I don't
just a
know.
blank.
It's a blank.
Yeah, I don't understand why some of them like that do that. They don't
Your
have a
name is
mic and they
space
don't
bar?
have a, yeah.
Okay, well, we are in citizen comment, so if anybody changes their mind or joins the meeting, please get our attention and you can address the board. Folks, did people get a chance on this letter for the McKed's going after the USDA Rural Development Business Grant Program, the $2 million? We talked about this before, but this is just a letter of support. I'm assuming we're all okay with it. Well, that's,
No.
we talked about it before.
Yeah, we talked about it. I remember. It took me a second.
Are we signing this?
No, I was just, before I sign it, I'm
Unless
sure
you're
we're
okay
okay
with
with
it.
it.
It was, this was in the packet.
Yes, yeah. You guys see that.
That was in the packet.
I don't like to assume.
I have a couple updates for you.
Sure.
I did touch bases with Brandy, the elections administrator. And she let me know that at the auditor's office, they are in training. We were talking about redistricting when we get the census information. And we have a deadline of December 31st of this year for a plan. And that is for counties who have elections in 22. So hopefully we'll get that information and we can move forward with that plan and then adoption into 22. I think we have to have it adopted within a week of the election, which seems kind of crazy. But
That, yeah, that seems.
If you were gonna change the
Big
district
mess.
boundaries in the
Yeah, a week before the election, you would think you'd want to do it early enough that people.
Right, well,
can-
I think that's what we would do for sure.
Yeah.
Give people a chance.
People be sending campaign material to people that aren't even in their district.
Right. Oh, and we're still on track, hopefully, to have the public hearing on the disillusionment of the rec district. And we've just received our first open space application from a gentleman in Goldendale who is wanting to go into the open space farm and conservation category, which he does qualify. The gentleman, I think it's a recommendation from the assessor's office that it be approved, and I'll be working that application, setting up public hearings and going through that process.
Does, that comes before us and not the open space advisory
Correct.
board?
Yeah, basically the open space advisory board, all they do is
Taxation of.
the rates.
The rates. As far as into the program.
Have they had a meeting this year yet?
I don't believe they have, but I'm not sure. It has been on the calendar, but usually the assessor lets me know and I have not heard anything.
Okay. I will remind people this is a citizen comment period, so if you wish to address the board, this is your opportunity. Unmute yourself, give us your name and your community, and you can have up to 7 minutes. Not seeing anybody. Oh, wait.
Sherry's unmuted.
Oh. Sherry, are you unmuted?
I am. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Sherry Bosque from Houston. And I wanted to keep the conversation going in regards to how the Klickitat County processes conditional use permits and the language of which the codes are written, the ordinances are written, the process, how it happens. And again, my hope is to find a way to save taxpayers money in this process that the county goes through with conditional use permits. So I had asked before, how does a citizen go about, putting in a suggestion for changing language in a Klickitat County code? Because I believe, and I'll just run this by again, because it just makes sense to me, that when a developer, an applicant comes to Klickitat County and they propose a project to our planning department, and then our planning department will set up a pre-submission conference. I think that's what it's called, but they'll do a pre-submission and they'll get the idea of what this developer wants, where they want to locate it, so on, things like that, kind of an over idea. And at that point, if there seems to, that this applicant is asking, excuse me, for a conditional use permit, and that means, they need special whatevers. So I would like to put in the code, in the language, that at that point, if it's a large project, let's just classify it a class C, or let's, put it, it doesn't have to be Joe's garage that he wants a conditional use. But if it's a class $3 million project, I would like to see the language written in the process that at that point, it is put out for public hearing, at least I would say to the whole county, but very most importantly to the city or township, the city that incorporates that area, and put it out to the public and listen to the public at that point. Because at that point, if you really do listen to the public and their concerns, and if they have legitimate concerns such as the road isn't county standard and people will die because if evacuation needs to happen with the wildfire, people can burn to death in their cars. So, that happened in California and that happened. So we are nervous that maybe this project could happen to us, or, and you listen at that point, pre-submission hearing and a public hearing. I just want to get to brass tacks. That should be how a conditional use is presented to the people. Otherwise, the way it goes now, you have a hearing or a pre-conference with these developers. You tell them, oh yeah, this might be a problem, shorelines or whatever. And then they go to work. These developers go to work. They start investing their money on certain, traffic things or whatever they need to do. But the citizens know nothing about these projects until the county says, oh, we've determined this has no significance. And our only choice at that point for feedback, for input as the citizen, is to make comments and appeal that decision. So I just think we could save a lot of money that if we had a large conditional use, a project that wanted a conditional use permit, it was put out to the county put out to your citizens right away, listen to them sincerely. If they do have sincere environmental things that they see are wrong, that needs to happen. And then the county would not go forward with this developer. They would say this to the applicant: we're sorry, it doesn't fit, X, Y, and Z. You can't get the water, it's in resource lands, all these things, the road's not right. And then right there, the county would stop spending our tax dollars that pay our county employees. They would stop spending our tax dollars working with this developer, because they would see right off at the beginning, this project wasn't going to fit. So everybody listening to this call needs to understand that we are wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars when we go forward, not the citizens, when the county moves forward with projects requiring a conditional use permit, and nobody, they're just working with, at this point, the county is working with the large developer. And I just want to put this out here. I've talked to some people that want to do their own little projects, such as wedding events that have a small scale. They live locally. They would take care because they have interest in the community. It would be great projects, and there's hoops in the roads they have to have done. They can't afford to redo roads, but yet nobody's talking to Under Canvas about redoing any roads or anything like that. So when you're working with a big business trying to push through a conditional use permit, and you're not listening to your citizens, even at the comment period, it's clear to see who the county's working for. And our taxpayers are paying you to work for us. So we should know in the very beginning, stop hiding these, large, like the solar farm. Nobody would know about this because it wasn't put out to the public, and they are asking for a conditional use permit, the Knight Road. That should have been put out right away. So I am going to continue with trying to figure out with other citizens that care how we can change the county code that has language that says it will be put out to the public for a public hearing, and comments will be considered in the beginning, and stop wasting our money with these big projects that don't belong. So how does the public ask you to change your codes and your ordinances? I see that they're amended all the time, so it's possible. How does the public have that conversation to amend the county codes that fit the public's interest over big business?
Okay, Ms. Bosque, we've had this discussion multiple times. Many of the things that you are discussing are actually in the RCW. They are not, that's not something, we can't exempt ourselves or change processes that are set out by state statute. You're talking to the wrong people. If you want that would take legislative action on the part of the legislature to do that. These are RCWs. The county doesn't write RCWs. We have county code.
I'm talking about
dictated.
Okay, let me
please, ma'am, I'm speaking. Actually, your time is up. I'm going to continue.
Okay, I was talking about the county code. and the
Right,
county
but the
ordinance,
county
not
code
RCW.
that you're talking, you have this idea that we can create processes that are outside of the RCW. As to the, it sounds like a great idea that we send, somebody's thinking about doing something and we send it to the community and we have a public hearing, which a public hearing that's a legal term. Until somebody actually submits an actual project, it's not, what am I sending out to the public to have a public hearing on? Because it's a
Pre-submission,
potential,
the
it might be
pre-submission
this, it might be
information.
that, we don't really know. That's why
No,
is a
they
public
need,
process.
no, Commissioner Sauter, you are confusing the public and this is
no,
unacceptable.
ma'am, you
You have
are
a
confusing the public. Your
have a
time is done, you are
pre-conference.
muted. Thank you. We're gonna move on. I want to allow time for other public comment. So thank you for your comments. And that's what those are, they're comments. So we will now move on. If there's other folks that want to have access to the board, this is your opportunity. We do have somebody in chambers. If you, which is nice to see somebody in here. Did you have public comment?
I do, sir.
I mean, you're on the agenda later.
You can't have a comment about that.
You can't have a
Then you
comment about
a-
that, but you could have comment about something else.
You could tell us how great the ice cream social was with the Grange this week.
The ice cream social was wonderful.
I know.
It just,
Well attended.
for the record, your name and your community, please.
Lucille Beavis,
Thank you. All right, go ahead.
and I'm with, well, I'm at one. 450 Northwest Second Golden F. Yeah, so we had our ice cream social after our damage and to celebrate our opening, and it was very well attended. I was very pleased. We got rid of all our ice cream.
Thank you.
I know I'm not scheduled until 2, but if you,
No, you're on the agenda, so we'll wait until that 2 o'clock, so.
The new little remodel of the downstairs looks absolutely wonderful.
Good, I'll have to come see it.
Don't give him any ice cream when you go. See what he's
I know. All right, let me go back and see. We are still in citizen comment. If there's other folks online, you can unmute yourself, get our attention. Not seeing anybody.
Nope. Mr. Jake, do you want these? I didn't look around, but if anybody wants.
All right. Hi, Denise. We are still in citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board. If you're online, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself, get our attention, and we'll recognize you. I'm assuming you have no citizen comment, Denise?
You assume correct.
Okay, just want to be sure.
Lee, I was just thinking, if we don't have citizen comment for the next 10 minutes, you could probably press the record off button so that, you know, whoever has to watch it doesn't have to sit there for 10 minutes.
Watch
Oh,
us.
yeah. Well, historically, it was sitting in that chair over there. And you might chat for 5 minutes and then they would go on signing documents for half an hour.
Yeah.
We have much more participation now that people can zoom in.
Now that it's Zoom, you don't have to sit here for the whole time. Yeah. I think that will.
Do you use Zoom as well? Do you use Zoom as well? All right.
You have
See?
to forgive me because I wear hearing aids. It's windy out there.
Yeah.
Okay, we are still in citizen comment. So if there's anybody who wishes to address the board, it's your opportunity. Please unmute yourself, raise your hand, get our attention. Not seeing anybody.
I'm gonna pause the recording.
We're almost
You know,
done
I'm just
now.
gonna start talking the minute you do.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
People can fast forward, it's fine.
Elaine Harvey has her hand up.
Okay. Ms. Harvey, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Elaine Harvey, Goldendale. I just wanted to make a statement about all the approvals and MDNSs of the short plots in the county.
Okay, go ahead.
It just seems like there's so many and they're just getting approved left and right. And many of these short plots are parcelization of bigger parcels for home sites or whatever. And how many exempt wells are the county gonna allow? I mean, is that taken into consideration when you guys are making your decisions about these short plots? I mean, how many exempt wells can the watersheds handle, especially with climate change? And is that up to the planning department, or, I mean, I know Department of Ecology, you know, would be included, but still, I mean, it sounds like they're just getting approved left and right. I keep getting emails on the MDNSs on these short plots.
Yes, typically, so the health department has to sign off on water sufficiency. That is routed to the Department of Ecology. And there are times when there are notes placed on the plat as far as, you know, typically, because permanent exempt wells, if it's, actually, I'll defer to Commissioner Anderson too. that there, sometimes there is where, you know, it's one exemption that has to be split, you know, it's shared amongst, I lived in a short plat that was like that, where we had one shared well, and our permit exempt well was actually split between the 4 lots that we could each have. We could only use a quarter of the allotment, but I think your point is well taken as far as the concerns, and I think we've talked about this before, about we have, I would say, the most robust groundwater monitoring of a county in the state of Washington, where we do take that really seriously. And I think your concerns are well said, and that is something that we are trying to keep an eye on, as far as particularly in basins where we have had issues with groundwater. And I'm thinking of in High Prairie, where we did take some action there, where we did limit what could be done there because of concerns over the impacts of groundwater withdrawals for permit exempt wells. Is there anything you wanted to add to?
I think the key to focus on is the well surveys that we do.
Yeah. You know,
That's where we have to get our data from.
right. So if we do, and I would say we have made the commitment, and I think we have evidence, we can show that if we have data that shows that we have an issue, we do act on it, and we do restrictions when we need to. But if there isn't data that supports it, that, you know, we don't, because people have a right to use their property, and but we are gathering that information.
Good topic, though.
One other thing I think that's really important, that I like to point out is that, you know, each permit exempt well can irrigate, you know, up to a half acre lawn.
Yeah.
What matters is the amount of consumptive use you have. And your lawn is technically the most consumptive use that you have in the house, because most of the water that you consume inside your house goes back into your drain field and right back to where it gets filtered back out, just like rain, and right back into the aquifer. So the actual domestic portion of the water use that's consumptive to that basin is usually very, very small, minus the lawns.
Right.
And then you look at places like High Prairie, and most of the people in High Prairie don't even have lawns, because they do. And I think anywhere east of the Klickitat, the people do a really good job of conserving water, because it's on everybody's mind. Whereas, you know, in the White Salmon, Glenwood, Trout Lake valleys, there's plentiful water, you know, 3 times as much rainfall a year.
Well, I think our lawns here are bigger, that we just let them do what they want to do.
Okay, you're calling them lawns.
Yeah, that's called a pasture.
It's called a pasture.
Well, I got another quick comment before
Yes.
1:30, but on the eastern side in Rock Creek and Little Klickitat, I see so many people putting in these recreational pools or whatever they are, little lake ponds at their property, and you know, that's evaporating into the atmosphere and taking more groundwater. So you know, there's no limitation, and who's monitoring those? And I see those coming up a lot more in the eastern county.
Are you talking for stock watering, or are you talking for visual appearance, or are you talking for swales as infiltration galleries? Because there were some that were built that were infiltration galleries using federal dollars, I don't know, 15 years ago, so that, you know, during rain events, the water would fall into that swale. They're practically, you know, push-up swales, like by D8s or whatever. And then that water would percolate into the aquifers, so that Rock Creek would have greater flow during low flow.
Right. Some of it was intentional to preserve water.
The ones I've seen and noticed are like they're more visual for visual aesthetics, or they're for recreational. But yeah, I just think, you know, those are up on the rise, and people aren't conserving water as much if they have all these little lakes and ponds next to their property or their house. And just a comment and observation that I've been making over the years.
You know, we don't have anything on the books that deals with those. The closest we come is, you know, your dam, anything over 10 acre feet, then you have some sort of interaction with the governing bodies. But like if you just build a little swale, in a running creek, that can be a big issue because, then you're within an F stream or whatever, and you're doing stuff. But if it's an ephemeral stream, there's so many of them all throughout the county.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harvey, for your comments.
I'll look into it more, Elaine, too.
Okay.
Okay, we are out of public comment. This is a time we've set aside for public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings. We will start, first is a public meeting to consider approval of short plat 2020-15 within the White Salmon vicinity, applicant Joshua Combs. And we will have a brief staff review from Denise.
Okay, good afternoon. What we have here is short plat 2020-15 is a proposal to create 4 lots from parcel 031023070311/00 in the White Salmon vicinity. The administrative review of the short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road, Health, and Planning Departments and the Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to the preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public's interest to approve the short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SBL 2020-15, applicant Joshua Coombs.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Just wanted to, I know I talked a little bit with the applicant over the course of this. He brought it forward during public comment. Remember when he was talking about the infiltration and with Gordy and the bioswale or whatever.
Bioswale, yeah.
And that got resolved satisfactorily to everybody, I hope.
Yes, they
including
did
the
have
applicant.
Bell Design, or not Bell Design, but
Pioneer.
Pioneer, yeah. The designer of the drainage system signed off on that.
Okay.
So that was followed through.
Okay.
So they didn't extend that pond. They just signed off that said it would be adequate for this development.
I believe they were gonna do some.
They
minor
did do some
modifications.
modifications, I
Okay.
believe. Exactly what they are, I don't know. I have them here.
But the
The
As a
public
result,
works
they
signed
said
off.
it was-
The public
Yeah,
works
they
signed off,
did.
the engineers signed off.
I just want to put it in the record that since
It
something that
was
came in front of
in
us.
front of us.
Yeah, it was evaluated again and by another designer, just to make sure. that
Well,
was
that's why I
adequate.
thought he was gonna send it out to a second opinion essentially.
They did.
They did.
And they did. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve short plat SPL 2020-15. Parcel number 03-10-2307-0311/00 within the White Salmon vicinity. The applicant is Joshua Coombs.
Okay, do I have a
I
second?
would second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve short plat SPL 2020-15. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is another public meeting to consider approval of short plat SPL 2020-19, parcel number 04-10-3618-0501/00. The applicants are Rudy and Karen Derricks. We will have a brief staff review.
Okay, short plat 2020-19 is a proposal to create 4 lots in the Houston vicinity. Applicants Rudy and Karen Derricks. The administrative review of this short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road, Health, Planning, and Treasurer's Office. All conditions of preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds it's in the public's interest to approve this short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2020-19 applicants Rudy and Karen Derricks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, staff?
I didn't know this one.
I'm fine with it.
I'm assuming the setback from the existing, the 5 foot between the garage and the new lot line is, I'm sure it's fine. It's close there, that was all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure the surveyors would have
Yeah,
got that line. in the
Reiner's
right
well
place.
aware of
Yes,
setbacks.
yes.
building setbacks.
Okay, thank you. That was my only comment. If not, I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve short plat SPL 2020-19, parcel number 04-10-3618-0501/00 within the Houston vicinity. The applicants are Rudy and Karen Garrett.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve short plat SPL 2020-19. Any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay. And our final public meeting is a public meeting to consider approval of short plat SPL 2021-10, parcel number 04-16-3207-7502/00 within the Goldendale vicinity. The applicants are Dustin and Sarah Conroy. We will have yet another staff brief from
Okay.
Ms. Denise.
Thank you. SPL 2021-10 is a proposal to create 3 lots in the Goldendale vicinity. The admin review of this short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road Health Planning and Treasurer's Office. All conditions of preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds it's in the public's interest to approve this short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2021-10 applicants Dustin and Sarah Conroy.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept short plat SPL 2021-10, parcel number 04-16-3207-7502/00 within the Goldendale vicinity. Applicants Dustin and Sarah Conroy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve short plat SPL 2021-10. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
You're filling up that area down there with those 5 acres.
Right.
Someone's here.
Huh?
Someone's here.
That's what I said.
Oh,
So they're filling up that area right there with
Oh.
those 5 acres. There was a lot of push for it out there.
Okay, we're running slightly ahead, but next up is Administrative Services Director, Mr. Van Cleve, and Fiscal Manager Jen Bartley, budget discussion and presentation of new financial reports for the general fund. Once we get Denise out.
Yeah, I don't want to get this messed up.
No, keep those in
We're gonna
order.
need a bigger clip.
Yeah. Yeah, before I started talking.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the
you.
same thing, you know.
Correct. The same landfill information that I provided before.
Yeah, but it's not front and back like mine printed, so.
Just gonna let Jen jump in and.
Okay,
the goal of today is to just provide the analysis of the general fund to give some direction going into the 2022 budget development process. So just starting from the beginning on the red tab there, you're going to find countywide revenue. I did a 10-year historical analysis. These numbers that I came up with from 2012 to 2019 are the SAO's annual report numbers, where I pulled them. I couldn't get 2011 and 2020 yet off their website, so I did pull those from our financials software. I also, in 2020, I did remove the CRF funding out of that equation so that we're just dealing with real money. And so just to kind of go over those.
Although we're going to try to spend it like real money,
I know.
for budgeting purposes.
Right. So I did a forecast, and as you can see, the revenue is pretty much flattened out. Okay, that's what we're looking at up to at least 2024. And then another chart of just kind of depicting of, you know, how much of each one of those revenue items comes in, where they're at. Any questions related to that?
No questions.
Well, there's a lot of information, we know that, and I think she's just gonna go through all of it, then we can backtrack.
Try and do it quickly because we don't have a whole lot of time. You've seen the landfill numbers before. I just threw them in there to remind you. They'll probably always be in there, where the allocations are historically, and what the trend is. And then you've also seen the budget to actual revenues. They're updated as of May 30th. Just keep in mind that these numbers are fluid. They're constantly changing. Things go through AP weeks later, payroll goes through, so I can't get month end numbers until after payrolls run the next month on the 10th. So just as long as we keep that in mind, that these are always going to change. In some way, usually a little bit. There's also, I was told, a 2020 close and roll that still needs to be done. So the 2020 fund balance might adjust a little bit as well, but I'm going to assume that that's pennies on the dollar, not a whole lot. That's pretty accurate.
Yes, it is. Yeah, until we get, we need to do the close and roll to update those
Right.
numbers. And we just got the report filed.
Right. Yeah.
So, yes.
And I'm assuming close and roll means exactly, it's closed. It's, once that's done, it's
Just
done.
a month.
No, meaning the numbers. So
For
2021.
2020.
It's not a
yeah.
hard close. It is not a hard close.
When does the hard close happen?
Usually after the audit's completed.
Oh, okay. I think I knew that. Just afraid I knew that.
It doesn't be a soft close.
It's a slow close.
Soft close.
Soft
close.
Not a hard close. Okay.
And the last one in the red section would be the expenditures, budget to actuals. Looks like countywide, we are currently sitting at 45% used. Target for the end of May would be 42%. The general fund is sitting at 37% used. The white tab is going to be general fund specific. So everything within this tab, specifically speaking to general fund only, that includes that landfill allocation on the first report, is what is allocated to the general fund. The next page would be the chart depicting fund balance, revenues and expenditures in our ending balance. And you can see in the chart that we're started in 2018 to 2020, we started to dip into fund balance. The next chart is really just to give you a visual on what is made up, what departments make up the general fund and how much of their budget makes up the general fund. The remaining pages are department specific. WSU would be department number 1, first one up. So they're all in order by department number. I went back to 2016 instead of a full 10 years, just cut it down to 5 years. I did a 5-year trend analysis and a 3-year trend analysis because of situations like WSU, where if you go back to 2016, they didn't have the 4-H program manager at grade 71. That person was brought in 2018, so the 3-year analysis is going to be more reflective.
Did we, historical data, in 2019, it seems like everybody had a pretty big jump and whatnot. Was there some historical thing that caused all these?
No, it was the year after. The 2020 number is the one that's the outlier. So that makes the trend.
Look like it's downsizing when it
Right.
isn't?
Because it was a phenomenon of the COVID year. So we had so much unspent. It would be my guess.
Yes. Yeah, effective 2020.
Beyond the charts, I threw the last 4 or 5 pages or whatever that is just the raw data reports, the same on the charts, but it's just whichever way you would like to read it.
You want to use.
Yeah, same stuff. The blue tab is the special revenue funds, senior services, Department of Emergency Management, public health, just an update of those charts that you've seen before.
Special emphasis funds.
So as you know, and now see, the general fund is complicated, right? Many revenue sources, many points, opportunities for expenditures. I told Jen the ones that jumped out at me, just speaking for myself, were one of the landfill, to show what we know to be true, that it's not declining, but it's probably not raising.
Right.
It's
Plateauing.
plateauing. I mean, there'll be ups and downs. And then this chart, which Glenn actually predicted before he left, that shows. Now, the challenge is not to overreact or underreact, because we have many other sources of funds. We have one-time funds, so to get where we need to get, we suspect will be a combination of either your lower expenses or your raised revenue, or a little bit of both. And that being said, it's still very complicated but the trend continues. It continues the wrong direction. So, and one-time funds may buy you time, but they won't change the analysis, the trend.
Good. They just kick the can down the road another year. So I personally don't like using the one-time funds to offset or procrastinate what needs to be done.
And with ARP funds, we cannot do that.
Right.
They put up barriers and safeguards. Nope.
So we realize we're probably not going to get full direction from you today, but we do need to start building the budget. The next step is for Brenda to send out, or one of the next steps, send out the letters so that the departments can gather their numbers and we start pulling these things together. We also know we have the salary survey be underway tomorrow at 11, hopefully it's approved today, and we're negotiating with 5 unions. All 5 bargaining units have full negotiations this fall. So on top of this, we have that.
Right. Comments before
I'll let you go first.
For me, the question that's really in front of us is, we have to do something in the general fund, and we've known that since 2019. 2020 was kind of a timeout because of COVID, and we knew that we did not want to try to make long-term changes to sustainability because we had no idea. It actually ended up better off than we had anticipated. And we didn't want to make any kind of like a knee-jerk response to what we're going to do. But, that's kind of over with now, and we have good numbers. We have, the trends continue as has been was predicted in 2019, that we have to make some kind of serious adjustment. So the question for me is, how do we do that adjustment? It's as simple as you either spend more or spend less or make more, or a combination of the two. And, we have an array of tools that we can use, which we're fortunate we can do that, but I agree with Commissioner Christopher. I'm not interested in delaying, kicking the can down the road. We need to reset ourselves as far as for sustainability in the general fund, and the way we're currently doing it won't work. I mean, if we keep doing the same thing, we're not going to get a different result. Nothing's going to change. I think we will see some sales tax, property tax increases with, we're not forecasting increases as far as the solar projects that are under construction now. Those won't hit until we may get some in 2022, a little bit starting. We will definitely see some sales tax going on, but even that is subjective because much of that is potentially eligible for rebate because it's renewable. And we've done a good job, other counties have not, about segregating those out and not spending money that's maybe not ours. And so we keep that so we can give it back if we need to. And so really what's going to be in front of us is what I would like to see as far as the stuff to departments. I think it's difficult to give them direction saying, because if I was doing it on a cuts only, like no new revenue, we could calculate that out, and it's probably around 5% is what you would need to do to rebalance, and that's a lot as far as, because I don't think our FTEs are even back to when we did that before, where we cut 5% out to rebalance the general fund back in 2010. And that's where you see the lines reset. And we always knew, we got about 10 years out of it, and we have to figure it out again.
Well, even that's complicated because as we talked in the finance committee, to do what we continue to do with the same people doing the same thing goes up, give plus or minus $500,000 a year.
Right.
Just the same program, same services, same FTE. So to cut, a true cut would be to cut back farther than that, as opposed to just a year to year. So that makes it even more challenging potentially.
So I mean, for me, I don't see a path forward that rebalances the general fund without additional revenue into it. Now, whether that means more appropriation coming out of the, more from the landfill into the general fund and cuts in other places, discretionary things, or, I honestly might as well, again, everybody's got my email address. That means to have a real discussion that has to include, we look at options of the other tools we have, which is sales tax increase, which we have ability, public safety tax things. Again, I think those are things that we need to at least explore. I'm not advocating that, so folks listening, settle down. I've had enough excitement today already. But I'm saying to have a realistic discussion, it can't just be, oh, well, we'll just do what we're doing and this will be really easy. It's not. There is no easy fix to this. And so we're gonna have to make some tough choices about, and it could be, we have discretionary money now that we are either putting into reserves, into the road fund, which we're, to my knowledge, are the only county right now. Public Works is running over here right now, even saying that, but we are the only county that transfers money from the general fund, or, into the road fund. So that, again, that has been a highly successful program, but it is something that maybe we talk about phasing out or slowing down or changing as a way to free up dollars to go into the general fund. So those are all things, but this idea that we are gonna do this cuts only, I think is, I mean, we could do that, but I think it would be draconian and it would have definite impacts on service levels to our citizens. And I would really have to be convinced to do that because I did it before and I didn't like
Other
it.
people have, everybody has an opinion, but since I've been here looking, I don't see any departments that are drastically overstaffed. And to your point, we haven't got back to the staffing in some departments. So, there can be no easy decisions.
Right. So that's, okay, I've said my piece, so
I-
let's
I-
spread the target
I
out a
guess I
little
would
bit.
say I would agree with all of that. We need to be looking at all angles. But if we are giving guidance to department heads on what we want them to present us, whether that's a status quo budget or whether that's backing up X number of percent, I think we need to look at that X number of percent by department and not as a county overall.
I mean, not across the board.
Not across the board. I think we need to look at it by department because there's some departments I think could spare more than others. And whether that's, and that's not necessarily an FTE, that's something other, but I think that discussion needs to be had by this board without just giving blanket, telling everybody.
The rebuttals have started already.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause
Unfortunately, they have.
some of them I just don't see any
No,
issues with.
No, that's actually,
And I'm
Papa Murphy's has a
quite
special
fine with
today.
their department's budget, so I don't want to tell them to cut 4% or 3%
Right.
or whatever. We need to have that discussion on where we as a board might think there's some cash laying around.
Okay. I don't disagree with you, and that was the approach in 2010 when we do it. I just have everybody has their eyes open. That is a tougher conversation with the part because then there's winners and losers, and there are. But I supported that 10 years ago because I think each department is different, but it's just being upfront.
Along to that point, Commissioner Sauter, the one thing you've said to me, and I think you've discussed at the finance committee, which members are all here, is one thing, I think you brought it up and Glenn asked last year, what did we learn last time? Is we've tried to start this process sooner so that we're not making impacts to people
On Christmas
on
Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that
which
was
happened.
really bad.
So, we're
I
trying.
will not do that again.
We're trying to start the process.
You two can do it, but I will not.
No, this is all before I got here. I'm trying to fix the problem.
We're trying to
not
start
create
it
a problem.
This, for me, this is why when we asked, what are we gonna do with this money? I said, we need to focus on efficiency.
Yeah.
We have to become lean. We have to find more efficient ways of doing the same because the public is expecting more from us. Knowing that we have to keep our level of service. And the only way you can do that is by efficiency. I look at how many permits have come in this year, but I'm not seeing it in the charges for goods and services. I'm not seeing that bump because with all those additional, we still probably aren't charging what it actually costs.
Absolutely.
So we have to look at the revenue side of this picture. And we have to get creative on the revenue side of the picture. My question is, our intergovernmental services is down significantly compared to the others year to date. And I don't know why that is. I haven't drilled down to figure out what that is. 3.7 out of 10.7 versus a lot of the others.
From what year?
From 2020. But even when I look at it from 2019, the intergovernmental services looks like it's a bit down. So I'm just trying to figure out why. That was the first thing that really popped out at me. But no, it's going to have to be becoming more efficient. I hope that we're going to see some changes at the state level, maybe a little bit more funding of our public health department over the long run. That'll free up some dollars. I mean, it's hard to not include the CARES dollars, but then you also have all these other dollars that are filtering in, large grants through the public health department that makes us look really good because we're now able to charge all these people's time to a grant where otherwise it was being
Well, and I
charged.
don't think our just adjusting permits and fees is gonna cover this, but by all means, I think we need to look at things, the small things like that. Because if we're charging somebody for a permit that costs us twice as much to fulfill the permit as they're paying for the permit, they need to be paying their fair share of that service.
But I would say it's bigger than that. I think we
What is much
have,
bigger than that?
and I'm not talking about to citizens per se, we have subsidized many services with other governments in this county, whether that's cities. Again, bring it on, it's okay. I'm in the mood today, but it is that, and that's great because I think we've always been supportive of that because we could. And there's all, it doesn't matter if you live in the city of Goldendale or the city of White Salmon, you're a county resident. And if there is a way for us to help with where we've had surplus, that's a great way to get that benefit out to all the citizens. But over time, we have created an atmosphere where the county pays first, and then other folks, and that's fine as long as we can do it. But if I'm having to cut services to seniors or public health or other stuff, and there's this other book of business that we're doing that we're paying 3/4 of the cost for, that it's not really our thing, that doesn't seem right to me, because it's like we're the ones having to make all the hard choices and not really holding other people accountable. I mean, we have, and I don't know what that is. I'm just saying we need to look at that, because there's things that we're doing that we don't even know we're doing, that we are, we're subsidizing. And we've always been able to do that. And again, as long as we're able to do that, I'm totally fine with that. But if we're not, those are some of the things. So it's not just to people, because I think there's a balance in that too, as far as for, I think to Jake's comment about being efficient, that's the first order of business as far as when it comes to like if I've bought lots of building permits over the time, and I expect to pay a fair fee for the service I'm getting, but it's also not a blank check where it's like, oh, we'll just cover our cost, whatever those costs are. It's like, no, that's a ridiculous number. And so you have to keep that to that it makes sense for if I'm paying. I mean, it's already, I don't want to pick on building department, but that's what I have the most experience with. I think our fees are reasonable, and we are in the ballpark as far as across the state, but they're not insignificant. I mean, if you're building a new house in this county, you're going to pay between $2,000 and $3,000, depending on what the value of the house is for a permit. Granted, in other places, that's a bargain, but I also.
So you can trade sawdust for that.
Yeah, true. And again, I think our building permit fees are reasonable, but there is a limit to, and we know we're subsidizing that, and we've been able to.
We might need to
and maybe
have that discussion.
I know.
So each of these things that you're talking about individually and together probably all require a discussion with someone or some entity. Some will involve the auditor and the treasurer, some will involve other political entities, some will involve all political entities. So how do we turn these discussions, which need to happen, that cover, you've covered a lot of territory in those, and appropriately so, how do we turn those into an action plan? And we've talked about other things over through the finance committee and the board, about other things that can be that may need to be transitioned to a different entity, or the cost transition, to your point. So how do we turn those in the time we have into discussions within and without? I mean, you're talking about fees, so the departments have to be involved. They're going to have to do a fees, study, so to speak, at that,
to some degree, and
to some degree, and so
I would say that with the fees, to me, that's little tiny number. That's the last thing that's going to fix this.
No, I
it's not
understand.
the first thing.
But everything involves a discussion with someone to some degree, all of which involve the commissioners, of course. So to have those discussions, if we're able to, before we actually get into the budget, someone may not, it may take a while to work through some of the bigger ones. We're talking about the radio system and the pending upgrade in a couple of years. It's a significant amount of money. So we know that's coming at us. Does that discussion occur? And if so, when and how, and, you know, to turn these into kind of action plans, so to speak. And then on the expense side, of course, the departments need to be involved, should be involved on any impact. That may look different than years past, how they present that, how they have discussions with the commissioners. Maybe it's just during the budget talks, but it's more than 10 minutes like we've done in the past in some cases. So just trying to turn this all into some kind of action plan so that we can, or parts of it.
One thing that I noticed, sorry, was some of the, is some of the departments were really good at estimating their revenues. And some of them are historically, I don't know if they just overinflate it just to make sure they're leaving a little cushion in there. But some of them are dead on and some of them are just off. And I don't know if that's us as a budget entity.
Some are far more grant oriented, and the timing on the grants makes a big difference on when you get that dollars and how you expend that dollars and whether you get that grant or not. Some departments it's really difficult.
And I think they have that information because I think Greg pushes the fund information out monthly, don't you, to the department so that they have.
And I would say, I mean, for me, that's not a huge concern. I mean, I always say that I want real numbers. Don't give me stuff
That's what I'm reading.
I want
I'm
real
seeing things
numbers.
that I'm like, these aren't even.
No. But I would also say the overall general fund, we historically underestimate our revenues by quite a bit and we overestimate our expenditures. So in the bottom line, all thrown together, it's working well.
It's just not accurate.
It's not to the individual piece, piece.
But you do that on purpose, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, on purpose, because we're being conservative, and I'm fine with that approach as long as it's, but back to something actionable. I mean, for me, talking about fees and all that kind of stuff, to Commissioner Christopher's, that's the little things, that's dust as far as on that. I think we're gonna have to concentrate on a couple, 3 big ticket things that can actually affect it. But even that long-term is not going to work. Like if we look at, it's easy, where we need to come up with a certain more revenue into the general fund to rebalance if we are do status quo, business as usual, same FTE, basically doing the same book of business. We can accomplish that not easily, but we can do it by, shifting that we're going to phase out the dollars that we're putting into the road fund. And now I didn't hear the screaming just yet, but that's something we can talk about. But that's a significant number that can shift things. But even doing that will still, the bottom line is now instead of putting, 4.9 or 5.5, now we're doing 6.5 into the, well, again, that will buy you a couple, 3 years, and then those lines are going to cross again, because the bottom line is the revenue doesn't match the expense.
Right.
It's that simple. And now it is really your turn.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Anybody else? Of course, that's always going to be the case when taxes can only go up 1%.
Right.
And if we're honest, right now, inflation's running 8% last I saw. When inflation's running 8%, your tax revenues are going up 1%, you're going to have a delta, and we have to deal with that. We've been in a good position for a long while because the inflation hasn't been that high, but we should be expecting. And so to answer your question, where do we go? We should probably sit down and have a pretty in-depth discussion about where we see costs going in the next couple of years. We got lucky that we built the building when we did. Otherwise, there's no way we would have been able to build the building. Yeah. But we also need to talk about the building. And we've got a while where we're going to be making double payments on everything, and including the building. We're phasing one large expense out, but we've got a year there where it's going to be expensive.
Right.
And we just got to make those hard decisions on whether we do that road this year or what we're going to do. But But in the end, it's gonna come down to, we have to either find creative ways to bridge that delta, that gap between your tax revenue and inflation and costs going up. Because as inflation goes up, everything else we pay is gonna go up. And it could get real tight real quick for what we're allowed to do with what we have in dollars. And so I think we need to have that discussion at that larger level to talk about where we see it going, because we can survive the next couple of years easily. A lot of our counterparts around the state are not in the same position that we are. It's gonna be real hard for them. So I would like to start there. Jen, this is absolutely amazing. Thank you. We'd be much further in the dark. The one thing I would say is some of your forecasts, I'm like, well, if I'm looking at 8%
Yeah, I'm not taking
inflation,
economy at all. I'm taking
you're just
historical trends.
playing historical
I know.
trends rather than what we're truly looking at when we're creating trillions of dollars. And sure, we might get 2.2 million this time around, but what are the odds we're going to get the second tranche?
Yeah.
So we need to be honest about some of these things and how we're going to play this game.
Right, but I think also for me anyway, I want to make sure we're honest and not just trying to backload it with revenue sources or changing revenue from going one place to the other place. That we're also looking at the cuts that need to go with it in any departments we feel there needs to be cutting. So covering the whole gambit, not just fluffing some money in there, and we need to sit down and hammer that out.
Here's the other thing though, that we have to look at is we're going into a study on looking at the cost, and our biggest cost is our people. And if we're looking at 8% inflation right now, and luckily we're doing the study before it really kicks in, because then it's really going to start looking bad. But that's going to, everybody's taking a big pay cut in essence as inflation kicks off. And if you do that, we're in a market where there's a lot of jobs out there and nobody taking them. So there's upward price pushing on, our most expensive things. So when you talk about cuts, how are you ever going to do cuts in an environment like that are going to have a material impact unless you're willing to cut services? To be honest about just the situation where we're truly sitting. I mean, you could go and ask anybody, be like, oh, can you cut 3 or 5% out of your budget? And they're like, probably. But we're talking about probably a lot more than that when you get down to the brass tacks over time.
Yeah, potentially. Madam Auditor, did you have a comment?
I did. With regard to your statement about the intergovernmental expenditures in 2018, that was, and I went and fact checked my thoughts before I raised my hand. 2018, the state auditors charted accounts eliminated Code 50, which was our the intergovernmental expenses, and we roll those up. We've been trying to not budget for those, and some departments historically have done that and they want to keep doing it. So as we proceed through here, we're trying to wean people off of the 50s, so to speak, and they'll roll up into what they will have to be reported in the annual report as.
So it could be, they're just being recoded.
They're
some other
reported in
way.
a different place.
Okay.
Those numbers and the cost of goods are fluid, like I talked about earlier. It takes time to go back and JB and charge those things out.
Okay.
So do we want to, and I know you have another topic, so are the commissioners wanting to schedule Thursdays again or schedule Tuesdays for longer periods, start having these discussions as we move into the, because I think July 1 is when
That's coming soon.
Pretty soon when we start putting numbers together and all these discussions that we need to have. So I don't know if you want to give me
I'm
Thursday.
available 5 days a week, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have like a Thursday workshop that we could just basically bring our ideas as far as, and that we can just without it, because what happens is if we don't kind of get that sort of an idea going, we get into the budget process and that's like a grind.
Yeah.
And you end up, it gets to be December and you end up kicking the can because you're just like, my God, these are huge things that we've got. What do we need to do to get us, so we can have a budget in January? And we'll, by God, we're going to start on this early next year. We're going to figure this out. Well, this is figuring it out time now. And so but my suggestion is if my seatmates are up for that, schedule a Thursday and we will just bring our ideas, the 3 commissioners. I'd like, the finance head, the treasurer and the auditor, the finance, and we're just going to sit down and we're going to have a discussion, what are our ideas, understanding that I want to be careful in that the kind of policy direction and stuff, that really is the board's. And I no disrespect to my other electeds, but because we're the ones that are going to get hammered as far as and so with great power comes great responsibility. And so I would like to have that. If folks are up for that.
Somebody's going on vacation the 24th.
Which is a perfect week to do this.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys want to figure out the whole revenue thing while I'm gone.
So right now it says no BOCC on July 1st. You're saying we're starting July 14th. So July 1st would probably be our best bet. I don't know if we had a reason July 1st for no.
Because it's right before the holiday. I didn't know if you really wanted to do July 1st. You
It's
most
a
certainly
Thursday.
can.
Yeah, it's either that or he's coming back from vacation.
Vacation early, and that's not happening.
Jen won't be
Well,
here.
I'm just circled.
You're gonna be gone?
I can call in.
I've just circled every Thursday in July to schedule a workshop, and then I can send out
That's good.
some,
And we had some tentative time on next Tuesday as well, didn't we?
for you, yes.
That's
It-
good.
And we can use most of that because HR and IT won't be here, so it's basically going to be an hour that we can have for
Okay.
fiscal
Oh.
discussion.
Well,
What
and I
is
guess
that?
that's an option too, on that Thursday, the 1st, instead of having a workshop. I know you're gonna shoot me. But what are you on vacation or supposed to be?
Spacewalking.
Oh,
That's
that's
a vacation.
too.
But
But
I
but
hate screwing with people's.
no, I do
vacation.
too.
I would much rather have this workshop on Tuesday evening so she can have her vacation.
We don't have to start our meetings at 10:30 in the morning.
No, we can
I'm
start.
up here at 7:50.
Yeah, we can start at 8 and have it then.
It's 2 hours there.
Whatever. That's what I'm saying. I don't like interrupting.
And I don't like
people's
mud
vacations.
wrestling for more than about 2 hours.
Don't worry out before
I bored out before. So.
So if we.
That's
could-
actually the only
so
way to
we
win is
say
by
we're-
wearing people down.
Are we saying we're okay with having this discussion next Tuesday morning instead of next Thursday?
I won't be here next
Or
Tuesday.
I'm not, sorry, the 29th of June and not the 1st.
It says 9:45 that day. We could do an 8
That gives us an hour and 45 to.
plus next Tuesday.
Because we got to storm and norm a little bit to figure out.
And Brenda really does need to get the memo out to the department heads this month.
So the next two, for clarification, the next 2 Thursdays, I'm gonna book time in there and I'll get those.
Tuesdays? Next 2 Tuesdays?
That's what I thought you guys said, were the next 2.
The early.
Tuesdays,
I thought
early
you
in
just
the
said
morning.
Thursday.
She did, she confused.
But
me.
she
I had to
meant
go look at my
Tuesday.
calendar all over again.
Tuesdays,
Yes.
okay.
Well, not next Tuesday
No, not next Tuesday.
because he's gone,
I'm gone.
Yes,
but the 29th.
yes.
But you probably should keep
The Thursdays,
locked
too.
up that you have on it for the rest of
Yeah.
the movie.
So don't fill them up.
Even the budget
Yeah.
process alone should take more than.
But then, so next Tuesday in the afternoon, we're gonna keep Jen on though. We're just not gonna
Yes.
do an early one. And then on the 29th,
Right.
we'll do an early one.
You can talk without me. It's fine. Float your ideas.
We'll pain you. We'll take-
No, I'm not gonna, no.
No, not even that.
No. I've been married for 31 years and there's a reason.
Sure, there's a local drone company that will get hired that can camera you
Yeah.
from the pool.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now we need to apologize for being 21.
Yes, I know. Sorry, Miss Lucille. You're up. Hopefully that was somewhat interesting. too.
listen to the budget.
Yeah,
I'd rather you
More
sit up here and do the budget.
yeah.
Besides that, I'm behind and I do appreciate between the virus and
the Grange, we were not able to meet, so this resolution didn't get done until I got back from vacation. And so I will read it in and make it part of the, you do have copies of it.
Yes, we do.
So this has to do with the solar farm development. And this was done at our Grange meeting. Whereas we recognize the need for new technology to provide additional energy resources. And whereas we believe that landowners have a right to dispose of their property in their best interest. And whereas we understand that solar farm companies require large parcels of land for placement of the solar panels. And whereas legislation should be established that restricts solar development in high valuable agricultural land and in areas of residential homes to an area that is less productive and populated, like desert areas or on land not suitable for food production. And whereas more information needs to be provided on the effect the solar panels have on the soil, groundwater, the ecosystem, wildlife, and health issues, which may occur due to the solar panels. And whereas the life expectancy is somewhere around 25 years, and then the solar panels need to be removed by the solar companies and the land restored to its natural state. And therefore, be it resolved that solar farm developers be required to prepare detailed plans to be presented to counter authorities where the companies are looking to install the solar panels regarding life cycle, any possible soil contamination that could affect the ecosystem, disposition of the solar panels at the end of the leases, or should the panels fail, where the panels will be disposed. Therefore, be it resolved that Centerville Grange number 81 requests that the Klickitat County Commissioners and the Klickitat County Planning Department extend the moratorium, which I know has happened, to review all the plans of the solar panel companies to ensure that the proposed area, the replacement of the placement of the solar panels is not detrimental to the health and safety of the residents. It was signed by Dean Balish, our master, and Lucille Beavis on the executive committee.
Thank you, Ms. Beavis. Any questions or comments or?
No, but do you guys have, since it sounds like a good time, do you want to schedule a time to look at our decommissioning?
Yeah, we can do that. And that's one of the part of the work we got to get done. I did have a question, if I could. When the resolution referred to high value farmland, what's the definition of that to you or to the Grange?
Productive agricultural land. So in other words, you're going to be able to plow that up. You're not going to have to strip down the rocks, because we know in some areas, and especially out there at night, there's a lot of rocks. It's land that has good soil that is therefore productive for wheat or for, we don't grow corn here, but a crop that we grow here.
So farmland over
Not
grazing
pasture
land.
land.
Arable land, I mean,
It's- yeah.
plowable, arable. Okay. Okay, because that's been one of the terminology that's been kind of bandied about as far as the high value. And I don't know in Washington if we have a specific, in Oregon, land use, their land use, they actually have classifications that go, soil class and different things that go with those.
Our soil here, I mean, you can have loam and you can have sand and you can have clay all on the same farm.
Right.
So we have such a variety here.
Okay.
But there is some land here that you probably, without doing a lot of work, you wouldn't be able to grow much. It's more pasture land.
Okay.
So I look at land and the agricultural community as that which you can actually grow crop without.
After 9,000 dump trucks full of rock.
Right. Okay. I think you captured the conflict well in your, because when I read this initially, it was, there is some inherent conflict in your resolution, but you start out understanding that we believe that landowners have a right to dispose of their property in their best interest. And, we understand solar companies need
Right.
large blocks of land to build these on. But it's the, however, and that is the conflict that we are all
I know.
struggling with.
And, I mean, if we got our way, they'd be in Arizona in sand dunes.
Yes.
But we still have folks here that are engaged in farming, and they're very concerned that they're losing their land to 25 years of who knows what. And I'm an ex-power company person, 40 years with a power company. Sometimes things don't generate like companies say they do. Our electricity is one thing, but you take the wind, that pretty much went to California. I don't know where this is going, and it may not generate, people get the idea it generates a lot of electricity. And I have no idea what these companies are telling people because they won't let you know. I mean, I don't know what they let you know. So it's kind of hard to say, are they really and truly worth it to what someone may lose? And I sell real estate. And to me, they're definitely going to harm the real estate market. That is my opinion, but I do sell real estate, and and I know the value of a lot of those homes out on off Night Road. It became a very popular area, and you just get concerned that they're going to lose in the end. So.
How do you feel if you take these large blocks of productive agricultural land, and as being somebody who sells homes, but so rather than say solar panels, we turn these into 5-acre blocks or 2-acre blocks out there, because as you said, it's a area that looks really nice. I mean, you've got a 4-mountain view. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Either way, the agricultural use is gone. In one of them, once you put the houses on them, it's probably never coming back. With solar panels, the way we've been to the installations, it's you pull them out and you're back to ag land after you plow and till and go back to it. Where do you see that working there? Well, I mean, because in essence, the second thing says you have a right to do with your land. If that's currently being used for wheat production and you're already not making hardly any money on it, and you were going to do solar and you're going through the family issues, the next thing you see is the subdivisions like we're seeing on the west end of the county. Many subdivisions that we're seeing happening right now. How do we balance that in your mind as looking at it from the Grange's perspective?
If I had my choice, I would much rather see housing than I would that many solar panels. That's a lot of solar panels. And then they tell you that they're going to remove them. Does that mean, are they setting them on posts and concrete? Because I can tell you, they will not remove those. And I was used to power poles with guy wires. And a lot of times if something happened to the power pole, the guy wire still sat there. And that doesn't mean you will not bring that land back to agriculture, because if they don't strip that down and take everything out, you are not going to be back to agriculture. And there again, you might not even back to putting a house there.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna ever go back to agriculture, because the farmers that are farming that land are not gonna go back to farming that land.
Well, no.
When those solar panels come off in 25 years, and if no solar panels are going back on, it's gonna get jumped up into 5-acre parcels then. So you're just prolonging the inevitable, because that's what's happening when that person stops farming it.
But there again, some of those people that signed up in 25 years, like myself, will not be here. So, you know, I suppose maybe their family, their children or whatever, will have to deal with that. But I'm not sure that.
I think, I agree with you that most people would rather look at houses next door than solar panels.
That's right. However,
I don't want to look at either, but if I had to choose one, I'd pick houses.
Okay.
it's something to think about because personally, I don't think these companies always give you the details. And a company is here today and tomorrow it's sold to somebody else. So it's just something to look at.
Well, I think you're highlighting the need that we are comfortable regardless with our decommissioning plans and what securities and what things, because our decommissioning plans say you will remove absolutely everything and return the land to its original state. That is a condition of approval. And we have to make sure that if we, how do we have the tools to make sure that happens?
So, and I understand that. And 25 years from now, Commissioner, who is going to do that? Are they really going to look at your rules, our county people?
Well, no, but there's a security, just like anything, where so it's dollars that they have to set aside or some kind of guarantee. And again, I'm not,
Have they all done that?
well, it's a requirement. They have to, and it has to be a guarantee that is suitable to the board, that it is adequate. And we have struggled with this with wind projects too, because it's the same requirement is when those projects are done, you have to remove everything, including they have to, you know, jackhammer the concrete for those bases down 6 feet or whatever it is. And the question is, what's the financial security that makes sure that if you're not a good player, because it's not going to be us that are enforcing it, because it's going to be off in the future somewhere, that there is adequate security to make sure that actually, that there's enough skin in the game that it's to their benefit to do what they're supposed to do so that they get their deposit back or whatever it is.
Essentially, we have an ordinance that gives the solar companies guidance on what we're going to ask from them on the decommissioning. And then they present decommissioning per item or per windmill or per solar project for this board to agree on that decommissioning plan. And that's what I want to do is I want to relook at this ordinance that gives them guidance and possibly adjust that as far as years and percentages. But
Good idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Interject something there, because.
I'll give you 1 minute, sir.
Okay, you guys take a look at Australia and Germany, what they're going through. Just Germany, Austin, Germany said, we got to build gas generators. We cannot subsidize these wind generators anymore. You ought to see what it looks like. They took the motors off and the sticks are in the ground. Australia is the same thing, where they decommissioned those solars. They're sitting there. It's a solar graveyard, you know. And that's exactly what you're looking at. It's the same people. It's the same kind of agreement that you talk about. Once the subsidies are gone, they claim bankruptcy and they wave goodbye.
Okay.
And that's why I want them having a big enough chunk of money in the bank.
Anyway,
with our name on it.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Noah.
Consent.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the consent agenda with all 15 items.
I will second that.
Okay, we got a motion, a second on the consent for all 15 items. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Pay the bills.
Want me to do the pay estimate first? That's in front of me. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept or pay estimate number 14 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company in the amount of $1,056,131.17 which excludes retainage in the amount of $52,806.56 and includes $79,209.84 in tax. The payment amount is $1,082,534.45 for the county services building project contract number C03120.
I will second that motion.
We have motion and second on pay estimate number 14 to Kirby Nagelhout on the new building. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $1,175,670.13. And the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $788,788.58 for the date ending June 14th, 2021.
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion, a second to pay the bills and the employees. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Brings us to the add-on new business, the amending the county civil service rules.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the resolution in the matter of adopting the Klickitat County civil service rules as amended. Klickitat County Sheriff's Office, specifically Bob Songer and Chief Civil Deputy and Jail Superintendent Carmen Knopf, request that the minimum years of work experience for lateral applicants be reduced from 3 years to 2 years. The proposed changes may be seen as a clarification of minimum qualifications under Rule 7.2A. -1, is that what?
Friends one.
Parens 1 on page 14. That's a new one by me.
I will second those parens.
You gotta go back with me on that one.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. That's done. And I'm gonna defer board pending till after so we're almost caught back up. So we have the treasurer. Finance committee update. Well, you got a preview of a lot of it.
Yeah.
In the earlier budget.
There's really not much.
Yeah, to add to that.
Yeah, I won't prolong the items. So yes, we had a finance committee meeting on Friday. And
Riveting.
yes, riveting. Yes. Actually, it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
We did cover
actually it
some-
was.
We kind of started with the slow piece and kind of rolled into it. So one of the things that we did address is Mr. Sauter is going to be on vacation on the 25th. So we did cancel the next meeting. And we'll resume then on 7/9. We talked about the Rescue America. We have submitted the amount. We haven't seen that we've gotten the money back. We did set up, Jen set up an email address or an email box so that it goes to multiple people. So that's a good thing. So we don't just have one person getting the notifications. We talked about the budget build process, which I think you guys have talked at ad nauseum. So I don't think we talked about anything that I didn't hear uncovered. So I can go into what we talked about, but it was essentially the same thing. We did discuss the airport employee or potentially bringing on an airport employee for the contractor that is leaving. Really the only thing that came, we kind of had kind of long discussion, but the bottom piece is that the auditor and the treasurer would like to be in the loop if there is some change in the direction. Right now, the Dallas is the physical agent. If that ever, or physical manager, I guess is their title. And so they do the AP and all the cash and everything. So if that did get to the point where we wanted to, or there was some talk of doing something different, we just want to be able to be part of the discussion. But I think it seemed like a good idea of what was going on. We talked about that there's a potential timber sale in the west end of the county on property that is held in trust for Klickitat County by DNR. I'll be honest, I know of none that no revenue I have gotten since 2015. Jake did kind of bring me this, or talked this morning a little bit. He thought it might have been 2009, was it, or something? Anyway, you said it was a while back, so we'll go back and dig up and see kind of how that process worked and talk to other counties. And that's about, that was the topics that I had listed on my sheet.
Does anybody know where that, I'm sure somebody does, but where that timber sale is, where that piece of land is?
It is going up Oak Ridge Road, up by it's on the north end of it. That land was originally gonna get logged and then they were going to lease it to one of the neighboring property owners, the DNR was, for turned it into cherry trees, I believe. And that lease since fell through, so it looks like they're gonna be replanted. But what I was told is we got about $683 per 1,000 on the stump, which is really good dollars per the, and we get 75% of that. So it's a fair chunk of change. Somewhere around $1 million off of that. And then next year, there'll be another one coming forward that'll be a little less in terms of likely revenues.
Is this another lease thing? I guess I'm
No,
trying to figure out, are they actually gonna start managing our forests? Or are they only doing it so they can lease it to somebody else?
Well, this one originally was gonna be the lease, but that fell through. And then the next one is actually just on their regular logging schedule. But that goes back to the HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan, the Buck Creek, Monte Cristo, Trout Lake area, where most of the acres are held.
Okay.
But that is something in terms of, I've been trying to work on for years with DNR and trying to create a sustained yield basis so that we can log, something around an area of 100 to 200 acres a year, which would be revenue that we can actually budget for rather than it just shows up and Greg's like, woohoo!
Yeah. Where do I put this?
Yeah. Hey, look.
To us.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, any
I'm trying to-
default that we're always the default.
I'm trying to figure out if there's been a philosophy change, or if this is just more than likely a one-off kind of a scenario.
I have nothing else to add to the finance. Did you?
No, I'd say that's an accurate representation of the meeting.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is that we did have the surplus sale for the sheriff's property in Lyle. The original bid was 79, or the original price we tried to get the property sold for was 79,000 and some change. Nobody bid on it. We went back out, we did some work on it. We put a title report with it and did some talks with the PUD to confirm that what we believed was correct. And we sold it on the 19th or the 20th, I can't remember when the auction ended, for $101,600. So as I suspected, it went for higher. Couple lessons learned on some of the process for surplus. I think we need to make sure that we start the bids not necessarily at the ground, but they need to be lower so that there's some pieces to get the competitiveness going. I think that was the kicker. I think nobody really wanted to be that person, but I bet you everybody's kicking themselves to be the last guy to click the go button at 79,000 before everything would have changed. So anyway, so that was a good thing. So we've got that done. So that concludes our tax title and surplus sale. So the only thing that we now are working on, and again, we kind of got waylaid with having to redo the surplus for the property in Lyle. I am working with White Salmon and I haven't visited with him for a week or two, but I will get back on the phone with him. And the old mill site that is on our radar screen to kind of go through and look at the dollars and cents on that. Other than that, we're just processing REITs. As Brenda said this morning, we are busy as well. And more just normal collection activity moving on into the summer. So I don't have any other items. The one piece that I did while I was listening to the other, I will at the next finance meeting try to bring another debt schedule so we can look at the payments and know what's where and how we plan to do that. So so I will put that on the finance committee meeting for 7/9, and then I'll bring it to the board the following week.
Okay. Questions?
Is there any questions
or comments? We're big on comments.
I'm good on comments. Any comment?
Good job.
That's not a comment.
All right.
Well, it is a comment, right?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Nope, thank you guys, appreciate it.
And I'm gonna go ahead and do, if anybody has any board pending now, I wanna, the prosecuting attorney is asked to be taken last. So, because he's gonna ask for executive session on litigation. So it's usually good to just do that at the end and be done. So board pending, anything anybody wants to bring up?
We'll have lots more next week, but
Okay.
I had, Rob and I had lunch with Julie from, the city of the Dalles about the airport yesterday. And the discussion was, namely, do we want to move towards the path of a county employee rather than contract situation? She seemed in favor of that. And then the next question was, well, who's going to be the fiscal sponsor too of everything? And she said that the city at the current time would be willing to continue on that. So we get a lot of benefits from that. They run all the numbers and everything, but they also have their staff attorney is the one that shows up to all the meetings and is working on all that. And that's a large benefit.
well, that was gonna be my question. If the negative, I guess, to having us staff them is we're gonna be doing the legwork on the financials and more hours spent by our people, I would imagine. As opposed to their people.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm all for if they will continue, because we do get a huge benefit from the city being the fiscal agent for the, because all the AP and everything runs through there, the FAA grants, all that stuff. That's a big
But
lift.
would that change if that airport was a county employee?
No, I don't
That
believe
was
so.
what
That
our
was the
conversation
conversation.
Just
was They
hoping
don't
that it
have
wouldn't
to go,
change.
right.
This is their piece.
Yeah.
So-
At least go to her over there.
With that question, looking at it, the airport is in Klickitat County in a different state. And where that airport, who should own that airport for the long term? Is it the city? Is it the county? Is it a joint agreement like we've been in this agreement for the last 20 years? 20 years ago, the airport was almost, going to shut down. It's a completely different airport now. It requires a whole nother level of management, which is why we're looking at like a professional employee rather than the contract employees to be, retired for.
Yeah.
We're a little beyond that. And so that was another question that Rob and I had brought up on it, because the city's changed over 20 years too. Is this something that the city really wants to keep on their books? They're busy and spending money on an airport that's not in their state.
True. I mean, they might be willing to get rid of it, but.
And if so,
It sounds like they put some financial into it, so I can't imagine just checking it off, but maybe if they can keep from putting future financial into it. Yeah, but then we gotta cover their share, so.
which was another question.
On a budget tight conscious, yeah.
Well, what the other question was, we've been putting the same amount of money into that contract for a long time, but every costs have come up and we haven't increased that contract. Now we're looking at rolling over it into a director level position. He's working on the numbers. The question is if we have to pay somebody, to manage it a certain amount of money and it's more than that contract currently is, where's those dollars going to be? Are we going to put in equally? And she came back, I think rightfully, and said, well, we're the ones that have been, bringing the attorney and everything else to the table. So that's a discussion for future. But I think the main thing is if you guys want us to keep moving down this path of making sure that we can hire somebody to manage it and it's the right person and it's something that's going to work. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that in front of you.
Okay.
For discussion.
Yeah, no, I'm supportive as long as it's not predicated on us becoming the fiscal agent.
Say, I'm fine with moving forward as long as I'm not putting myself in line to put more money into the airport.
Oh, there's gonna be lots more money put into the
Well,
airport.
I'd rather give it to the Dalles than
You'd rather give the money to the Dalles than the airport?
let them have the airport.
Oh, no. You're gonna get a hard pushback from me on that. Yeah,
And that'll make two of us.
yeah.
We worked really hard. to
Really
get half
hard
of
to
it.
get half of it, and we have made significant investments
Yes,
there.
we
And it's
have.
in our county and it's in our urban growth areas, so. Yes,
And it's.
and I'm not saying the partnership, I mean, I would say the partnership has worked really well. And there's an argument that it has a certain advantage being jointly owned, because you have 2 congressional districts, 2 states, we have literally qualified for grant funding in both places simultaneously.
And that's,
We used one as the grant match for the other one, which didn't even seem possible.
and that's what I'm, you also have 2 counties paying into it versus just us paying everything.
Right. I mean, right now it's it's 50.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not a
There's
big fan of paying 100%. That's my point.
Okay,
All depends on how long your vision is.
right.
Anyways. that was
Okay.
my update.
Okay, I don't think I have anything that won't wait. So with that, I'm gonna look at folks in the room. Is there anything else before we go ask for the prosecutor? No.
We were all.
Wait, yeah. All right, I'll ask the prosecuting attorney, David Cannell, if he is available, and do you have anything in regular open session before we go into executive, sir?
So the trials have been continuing. We had another trial in Superior Court last week on a gal that broke into the caretaker's residence down in Maryhill, and she was convicted after 45 minutes of deliberation by the jury. We do have another trials scheduled next week, so things are progressing on that front. On Friday morning, we had a half-day docket for dealing with some Blake resentencing issues. So we have our first batch that went through. Most of them on agreement, and then quite a few have been set over for contested resentencings on the 21st, and looks like a couple more on in the second week of July. So those are ongoing and probably will be for quite a bit of time. We did get a decision from the Ninth Circuit Appeal that I wish to discuss in detail in the executive, affirming the district court's determination that Tract D is in within the exterior boundaries of the Yakima Nation Reservation, and for the office, our victim witness coordinator position is still open and unfilled. So that's what I know right now.
Okay. Any questions for the prosecutor? Open session kind of questions?
I didn't hear, you had the trial last week, the trial the week before, was that convicted, or what was the one on that?
Yeah, that was 3 weeks ago. So it is generally alternating weeks. We share the one Superior Court judge with Community County. That one, it was actually set by a court commissioner because of a conflict with Superior Court judge. And that was a gentleman that assaulted some officers when he was being taken into custody on a mental health hold. So he was convicted of several counts of assault of law enforcement.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, how much time do you want to start with as far as Mr. Prosecutor?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay, we will go into executive session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren I.
Mr. Chairman, would you please ask the people to stop? And would you like me to go ahead and turn everything off?
Yeah, I'll ask folks on to leave. This is our last piece of business for the day. I don't anticipate us coming back. There will not be any other business. We can't, in fact, take action in executive session. And so we're going to start with 15 minutes, which may be extended.